I feel old.
I don't know how many 20 is, but I just put one on there.
Yeah, that's all you need to do.
Okay.
Here.
Does she take credit card machines?
We take Venmo, check, or cash.
Well, I'll take care of her because I didn't bring anything.
And then just write.
All right. Should have.
Todd, those are yours.
I have the winning tickets, by the way.
You don't have number
I
one.
love you all.
Give me 5. I know.
Hey, Amanda.
Are you going to?
It's not recording.
Are you going to Texas again?
Hit that middle one. Right there. We're gonna have to go to record on this computer.
Recording in progress.
The one thing I know.
All right. Good evening, everyone. It is now 7 p.m. Call our city council meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag. All right. I'm going to ask council, can we try our best to speak into the mic? It's one of the things I keep hearing.
Right here.
That's right. You need to eat it, JJ. So, again, it's just one of those things. So I mean, for people online and also in the room, I just think it makes it helpful. So, Amanda, can you do roll?
Councilmember Smith,
Here.
All right. Oh,
Councilmember Burke,
here.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Here.
Councilmember Hall,
Here.
Councilmember Frymark,
Here.
Councilmember Houston,
Here.
and Councilmember Rounds is currently out this evening.
Correct.
Motion to excuse Councilmember Rounds.
Second.
Second.
Pass it down.
Okay.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston.
Aye.
All right. Next up, Clark Cowlitz Fire and Rescue is here for a presentation. Good evening, sir.
Hi, Mayor and Council. My name's John Norm, the Fire Chief for Clark Cowlitz Fire Rescue. And I see that you almost fell into our old name, Clark County Fire and Rescue. But
I apologize.
as part of my presentation, I will explain that in our service to Woodland and the residents of Cowlitz County, that we changed our name in 2019 to more reflect the communities that we serve. So thank you for having us there. I know that new mayor and a few new council members, I just want to come in and talk a little bit about the services the fire district provides to the community and provide the opportunity for you to ask any questions about some of the things that we do. I'm joined here tonight by 4 of our 5 elected Board of Commissioners. We're governed by 5 commissioners elected at large throughout the district. Our board chair is Mr. Stanley Chun. He's over here on the right. Commissioner Jade Burke, and I called him Mr. and I should have called him Commissioner. I'll have to hear about that later. In the back here, I have Commissioner Dave Town and Commissioner Larry Bartell, and then the one more commissioner who couldn't make it tonight is Commissioner Ken Ayers. Commissioners Chun, Burke, and Ayers are all residents of rural Woodland, and then Commissioners Town and Bartell live in the Ridgefield area, but people are elected from at large across the district. So if we could advance the slide, please. Or do I have that?
No,
Have that. Thank you. Thank
Amanda
you.
has it.
All right.
Thank you.
Also, you know what? I want to go back and introduce who I missed a little bit back here tonight, too. I have the Operations Chief, Eamon Ryan, here with us. He's in charge of all emergency response personnel. I have Administrative Chief Ben Peeler. He's in charge of the business end of the district, helping make sure that everything's working right there. And then I brought our 4-person crew, our 4 career firefighters tonight. If you guys want to stand up, I got Captain Kenny Buer. He's a shift crew member there. And I thought some people in the community might know Mr. Buer, or there I go, Mr. again, Captain Buer. I have firefighter paramedic Daniel Marting, who's lead paramedic today. We've got firefighter Kennedy Try. She's the apparatus operator and pretty much does all the work for the paramedics. And then we got firefighter paramedic David DeGrassi with us today. And he's a new employee. He's going through what we call a field internship with Daniel Martin as his lead today and learning all the skills here. So thank you for being here. I just wanted you, people get tired of hearing from the chief. They'd rather see the firefighters. So that's why I made them come today. All right. So a little bit about Clark Cowles Fire and Rescue. We are a combination fire department. We have full-time and volunteer firefighters. We have support volunteers who take care of some other critical tasks that don't include firefighting. And these having volunteers augment us helps reduce costs for staffing and get some critical jobs done that aren't as frequent. So we have, for example, our support volunteers bring our water tenders. Those are areas of the rural where we don't have water supply. We don't have fire hydrants in every corner. So we have volunteers that only do that. A couple of them live here in the Woodland area, and they respond out the tender from here. Last year, across the district, we responded to 5,305 fire and medical emergencies. Next slide, please. So this shows a map of our full service area. It's about 55,000 residents in 125 square miles. Within that 125 square miles is the cities of Woodland, Ridgefield, LaCenter, the Cowlitz Indian Reservation, and then some unincorporated areas of Clark County. We have 14 miles of I-5 from the 179th Street exit. That's our south boundary is 179th. North boundary is exit 22. So 14 miles of freeway, about 43 miles of waterfront when you include the Columbia River and both forks of the Lewis River. What we do is fire suppression. So if there is a fire, anything's on fire in the district, people call 911. We respond out with, we run 5 engine companies per day and 1 ladder truck. They're all staffed at a minimum of 3 personnel per day. And they will respond to any of the emergencies we have for fires. If it's a structure fire, you get 4 engines, 1 truck, and 1 battalion chief. If it's a car fire, you get 1 or 2 engines. If you got a medical emergency, you might just get 1 engine because 3 or 4 personnel. Sometimes we staff with 4 personnel if nobody's off on vacation or sick leave. So it takes a certain number of personnel. We'd have to do 2 engines for a cardiac arrest or a respiratory problem. Severe respiratory problem. But so we have some depth within the organization to be able to back each other up. We also do, like we talked about, emergency medical services. So we have our firefighter EMTs are trained to the basic life support level, and our paramedics are obviously trained to the advanced life support and paramedic level. As of July 1 of this year, every rig will have a paramedic every day. We have a few paramedics who are still in training, so we have to bump them around to get some field experience, but because of an EMS levy that was passed by voters in 2022, we were able to hire enough personnel to have a paramedic on every rig every day. It makes a difference for us here in the fire district because our ambulance responses north of 179th are a little slower than they are in the southern parts of the county. So it's important for us to be able to put a paramedic on scene early to start critical care for patients while we wait for the ambulances. We also do technical rescue, so we're part of a regional technical rescue team that responds across Skamania, Clark, Cowlitz, and Wahkiakum County. And the 3 major departments that participate at are CCFR, Fire District 6 in the Hazeldale, Salmon Creek area, and then the Vancouver Fire Department. So they do a lot of skills in trench rescue, structural collapse, machinery entrapment, and any of the other highly technical rescues that where you would need to have some advanced skills. We have a marine division. So at the Ridgefield Marina, we have a fireboat and a rescue boat. The fireboat can make it in the Columbia River and Lake River in and out. Our rescue boat is a shallow draft boat, so it can make it up the Lewis River to the dams, and at certain times of year can make it a certain distance up the other fork of the Lewis River. And then we also have a rescue raft at our LaCenter station, and so it will do the shallow areas. Our hazardous materials responses, we do first response on that. We'll isolate and identify what the product is, and if we need additional help, we call the Department of Ecology hazmat team or the hazardous materials response team from the Vancouver Fire Department. So our special rescue teams or technical rescue teams, we have mutual aid agreements with each other that we can call on each other for those types of incidents. Next slide, please. We also have a community risk reduction division, and so it's broken into two major parts. One is traditional fire marshal services. So for the 3 cities that we serve, we do fire plans review, fire inspections, new construction inspections, as well as ongoing businesses, and then public education and outreach. So we've been doing that since 2019 for the cities. And all 3 cities have indicated that they're getting a higher level of service through us than they were from the county, from either county fire department prior to that. It's helped reduce the impacts of fire, identify hazards in businesses before they happen. One of the worst things we can have happen in a community, other than having people lose their home to a fire, is lose a business that may be an employment center or provide other critical services to the community. And it also helps with our insurance rates, our WSRB rating. So everybody's insurance is based on the Washington Survey and Rating Bureau number, and we reduced that number last year from a 5 to a 4. It's on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the best, and there are no Class 1 fire departments in the state of Washington. A couple big cities have Class 2s, and then 10 being essentially like not having a fire department. And so we were a 5, we've moved to a 4, and we think with some advances that we've made in the last few years during our next re-rate, we might be able to move, at least in our city areas, to a 3. The second part of the community risk reduction team is our CARES response. That's the Community Assistance Referral and Educational Services response. That's a team that is 2 different teams. One is a follow-up team for people that are discharged from the hospital, and we go out and check on them to make sure that they're keeping up on their medications, they're not having other issues that might cause a readmittance to the hospital. And the hospitals actually pay us for that. So our CARES team, we can go and jump to the next slide, please, I'm sorry. That CARES team, we get funding, outside funding for that. There's no fire district dollars spent on our CARES teams. As part of that team, we have a home safety expert that helps reduce falls. Works on home safety, and with a focus on falls reduction, we get money from ADSWA, the area Agency on Aging Disability Services for Southwest Washington, and they pay for that person. And in 2022, remarkably, 10% of our call volume was for ground level falls of people in their homes or businesses, and we reduced that in 2023 to 5.5% of our calls. So we're making a difference out there on some of those, and we're really trying to parse the data right now to see where some of the areas are. We're making a difference to reduce the number of true emergency calls, so that we have people remain in service, units in service to take it when something serious comes along. So our second team just started in March of last year, and that is a mental health co-response team. So we've trained the law enforcement officers in the cities, the 3 cities that we serve, as well as the Cowlitz Tribal Police. And so if somebody's having a mental health crisis, it's a paramedic teamed with a mental health responder, and they will go out and initiate some care and try to refer them to the right place. Because a lot of times, what's going on in the mental health arena is the law enforcement doesn't always know where to take them. You know, it's like, well, I can take them to jail, and maybe I can take them to the hospital, but that may not be the best place for them. So our fire units also can make that referral, as can other people within the community if somebody's having a mental health crisis. And that initially started just in our response area, and we've expanded it out to respond into Fire District 3 in the battleground Hawkinson area, as well as working with some other agencies in the county. They're getting grant funding for that, and we're utilizing that money to support the program, hire more personnel, and be able to respond and help there. That is predominantly supported by Carelon, which is a mental health, what do they call it? It's a BHA, a behavioral health agency, as identified by the Department of Health. All right. So a couple things about us. We operate under a balanced budget each and every year. We have a history of passing our financial audits. As I say that, I must say that we did have a finding this year from the auditor's report. We saved the taxpayers about $700,000 during the purchase of a ladder truck and a fire engine, but we didn't keep the bid paperwork right, and so that was in violation of state law. And so even the auditor said, good job on saving money. Here's your here's your discipline, so don't do it again. We've really done a lot of work over the last 6 years towards financial stability, making sure that that we have the right contingency funds and the right capital improvement funds to keep the department operating. Our board meetings are the second and fourth Thursday of each month at 4 p.m. at the main station on 65th, just off the freeway in Ridgefield. They're open to the public. They're available on Zoom. We'd encourage you to come by if you'd like to see one of them. I want to talk a little bit about Fire Station 29. It's right next door at 250 East Scott. Per our policy, we have a minimum of 3 personnel on duty each day. There's 3 units there. It's a fire engine, a water tender, and a squad or brush unit, depending on how you call it. So the engine's the first out unit. That's what you'll see most of the time around town. If there's a fire in the rural area, the water tender needs to go. We have a couple of support volunteers here in this community that are quick to respond and take that. But if they let us know they're going to be out of town for some reason, not able to come, the crew has to swing somebody over and take the water tender with them. We also have a squad or a brush unit used for natural cover fires. So if you got grass fire, tree fire, something where a fire engine's not going to go off-road to get to it, the squad takes care of that. Next slide. A little bit about Fire Station 29. Some of our statistics, and that's why I brought my glasses. Some fine print right there. But in 2023, in the station area, so the primary response area for Fire Station 29, there was 1,191 calls. But you'll notice the engine went on 1,248 calls. Brush unit went on 24. The brush unit is not very used as often, most of the time in the summer. And then the water tender on 16 calls. So that's really on fires where there's no water supply. But you'd say, why did that engine go on 1,248 calls? Well, sometimes other units in the district are busy on a call, so this engine has to go and back it up, take their calls in their area. Or we sometimes frequently go outside, so surrounding the edge of the district here is Cowlitz County Fire District 1. It's an all-volunteer organization. They sometimes have difficulty in turning out crews, and they'll call and say, hey, can you cover the call for us, or can you assist with that? So about 60 times last year we went out and assisted Cowlitz 1 on calls. They assist us. If we have a fire, we ask for one of their engines to be dispatched automatically. And really where they're a help to us is if we have a big fire that's going to keep our crews out for multiple hours, we'll ask them to move up to the station. They'll muster up a volunteer crew of 4 or 5 folks and come and staff the station for us. So, in the fire and EMS world, it's a little bit of give and take. We try to help our neighbors. They help us and try to make sure everybody's safe. Next slide. As I mentioned before, we had an EMS levy that allowed us to hire several additional firefighters across the districts. It's allowed for better staffing in all of our stations. Right now, I will tell you that Woodland for the last 6 years has been one of our priority places to have a paramedic because it's on the far north end of the district. The ambulances are coming either from the south end of Clark County, or if nobody's available in Clark County, the ambulances are AMR, which is a private provider. Then we would get an AMR unit out of Longview if one was available. Either way, it's a long time to wait. So we wanted paramedics on scene here with us first. And so we've been able to hire and train the people that we'll have in each station each day. We also try to be efficient in some of the other ways that we work. We actually share a station with the district to the south of us where we staff that, our southern station, we staff 2 shifts and they staff 1 shift, and that way we're able to cover that area. And that engine will go cross-border and wherever it's closest to, go take care of the incident. I meant to come up here and talk a little bit about the history of how we got here and how you ended up with, how the city of Woodland ended up in Clark Cowlitz Fire and Rescue. So in 2013, the Woodland Fire Department was staffed with 1 career firefighter per day. In fact, Captain Bureau was one of them. And then had a fire chief, and then there were interns and volunteers that assisted. But it just kept getting busier. If you see that about 20% of the calls for the district are right here in the city of Woodland, it kept getting busier and busier. And so in 2013, the city of Woodland began contracting with the fire district. And the way fire contracts normally work is it can get very expensive as values go up to keep up with the price of cost. So a lot of times they annex in. So if you look across Cowlitz County, Kelso is annexed into Fire 2. Castle Rock is annexed into the Fire District there. Kalama is annexed into Fire District 5. If you go into Clark County, La Center, Ridgefield are annexed into CCFR. Battlegrounds annexed into Fire District 3. And it's a way to equalize the cost per thousand to everybody that's being served by that, and that way you don't have a disparate rate between them. So in August of 2020, there was a vote of the citizens of Woodland and citizens of CCFR, and Woodland annexed into the district. So the city is no longer responsible for any cost for fire protection. It doesn't come out of your budget anywhere. The citizens of Woodland are in the fire district, and they pay a property tax directly to the fire district. So, next slide, please. I know you guys were very busy, so I tried to make it quick, just to give you a kind of a big overview and ask if you had any questions for us.
Council? I don't have any questions. I do want to say thank you for your service. Appreciate everything you all do. And when we had our ice storm, 3 individuals came over from next door. Were very helpful with an issue that we had here. So thank you very much for everything you do for us and our community.
Excellent, thank you.
I would just add to that, I just happened to have been on 2 emergency care situations in the last 60 days, and it was your people that were right on the spot, and it was amazing. I was impressed not only in the response time, but the quality of the service they do.
They are.
The paramedic things to know that save lives.
I've told them since I've been here. I've been the chief here since 2016, and it was true then and it's true now. The firefighters here make it really easy for me to go out and do my job, because every place I go, people say, hey, I love your firefighters. They are professional, they're courteous, they're quick, they get the job done. I will tell you that over my experience, it's great to have good firefighters, and I could always say there are no fires currently burning in the district, so they did their job. But where they really make a difference also is on the EMS calls, and that's the ones you don't see. You know, the newspaper will run a story on, well, a big fire happened over here, or even, you know, grabbed a kitchen fire over here and saved it from getting too bad. But we don't report out on the EMS calls because there's some patient privacy things there. But we make a tremendous amount of difference in people's lives every day on cardiac arrests and getting a return of spontaneous circulation, getting a pulse back. On respiratory arrests, we're getting the right drugs on board to open up their lungs. Traumatic injuries, we get a lot of traumatic injuries in this area with a very fast freeway, some rural roads. We get a lot of car crashes and just industrial accidents and things of that nature. So they thank you for that. They deserve it, and I try to let them know regularly. Our annual response time report will go to our commissioners at our Thursday meeting, and then I'll post it online. Mayor, I also send fairly regularly the copy of the monthly reports to the city administrator and to the mayor, and I do that for all of the cities as well as the Cowlitz tribe, and so you'll see those come through that just kind of summarize what we're doing for the month. If council members, you know, you'll know they have mayor has them.
Address?
What's that?
Do you have my email?
I don't have it yet.
I don't remember seeing it.
No, you haven't seen it yet.
Okay, there you go.
I hear you're new here, so.
But I read every email that comes through. That's why I'm like, I don't think I've
No,
seen that.
You've not seen it yet, no.
Okay, perfect.
What I do is the commissioners get it in the first meeting of the following month, and then once they've gotten a report, then I send it out.
Got it.
To everyone else. But I did note in our data for 2023 that our turnout compliance is in Woodland did well. Our call response time has gone down, which is good. We're meeting more of our calls. Considering how busy this engine is, and they're out a lot, so another engine has to come and back them up, and that would be either the Woodland engine or the La Center engine. You are the Woodland engine. Either the Center engine or the ladder truck out of Ridgefield, and so that sometimes skews our numbers a little bit high. But our target goal response time to calls in the station area is 5 minutes and 30 seconds, and we meet that about 69% of the time, which is good. Yeah.
Question
You
for him?
say we're using AMR
Yes.
for ambulance. Did you ever get a ambulance for the?
We did. The Cowlitz Indian Tribe has been a great partner for the for the fire district, and they provide us funding for 2 ambulances. One of them is here in service, ready to go. So emergency vehicles are taking a long time to produce. An ambulance is taking 18 to 24 months. A fire engine is taking 24 to 36 months. So one of the ambulances is here, ready to go, and we're rounding up some training with our folks. We're still in a contract, piggybacked on a City of Vancouver contract. The 3 fire districts in this part of the county, in the north part of Clark County are, and so we're with AMR through the end of the year, and Vancouver will be letting out a new contract pretty soon to see if we can come in, and we're working on seeing if we can get better times, better responses, and we're watching it. But we also have a backup plan so that if we can't get where we need to be, we will have the right equipment to do the job ourselves.
That way you guys can do it.
Yeah, I don't want to do all of it,
Right,
but it's like
yeah,
if
emergency.
there's an emergency, a dire need, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Last year, I sent an email about trying to do a water safety
Yes.
presentation for community members. It was getting towards the end of the year, summertime, so I kind of just put it on hold, but I'd like to try to readdress it, maybe try to do it early spring.
Absolutely. So
Is that something we could support, and you
Yes.
guys can support? The same thing with bringing somebody in for water rescue and showing kind of what you guys do?
We'll bring the team over. So as part of our Marine program, we have about 14 people that are trained as rescue swimmers, surface swimmers, and we've had several incidents here at Horseshoe Lake. And so they'll bring the raft over, put it in, do a swim. I mean, the first response team comes right out, see if we can do a throw rope to them, figure out some other way to get to them, and while the rest of the responders come. So a water rescue actually generates a pretty large response for us. But yes, I remember the email, and I think we just couldn't quite make it happen during that time.
Yeah.
But because of the amount of use that Horseshoe Lake gets, it's a good place to have that.
Yeah.
We did for several years have free life jackets out there, and the program wasn't sustainable. We weren't getting donations anymore for them, and we ran out of life jackets to put out there. We did that, and then at Paradise Point Park as well as over in La Center.
I did have one parent who, local mom that teaches lifeguards for City of Portland, and she volunteered to come in and give a talk.
think-
Is this something we can do, like first aid,
Yes.
CPR afterwards? Try to do a
If you
something
send me
like
the email again,
Okay.
you know, the greater the lead time, the better we are for putting it together.
Yeah.
But we'll get some people from the Community Risk Reduction Division coming out for public education on that. We'll get the rescue swimmers there to kind of demonstrate what they do, and
Okay.
that last slide, that's them. Now, what you don't see in that picture right there, they're out in the Columbia. It's in February, and there's a Coast Guard helicopter hovering right over them, trying to generate a wake for them to have to swim around in the wake. So, but they do some pretty regular swift. I don't want to say swift water because they're just surface swimmers, but they do some regular training on that.
And I haven't broached this topic yet with the mayor. I'm trying to figure out where we could hold it at. So once I figure that out, maybe try to work dates and just shoot out an email at that point for what would work best for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming out.
I told the
you.
crew, they had, a couple of them been in training all day, so I told them after this I was going to kick them free to head on out.
There you go. Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. All right. Next up is citizen communications items not on the agenda. I've got two people listed here. The first one is John Kenwisher. Come on up, sir.
Good evening. My name is John Kenwisher, and I wanted to know if Triangle Holdings had made a decision on the property on Lewis River Road, what they're going to build. Have they come to you yet and figured it out?
We're still status quo. So I discussed it, and Travis is over here, and it's kind
Okay,
of one of
well-
those things that we talked about here a couple council meetings ago. I wanted people to know, the community,
Right.
where they have apartments that are approved.
Right.
No permits have been given for
Right.
construction, for building.
Okay.
They say that they want houses. I know that for them to do houses, they want to be able to lower the lot sizes. There's a little bit of conversation.
Right.
But no, there have not been any permits given or issued.
So I spoke about against the apartment complex back in June when this all started, and so did a lot of the people here. and I'll tell you why I spoke against it. Versus the houses, they proposed, their alternate plan was for 90 houses, as I recall, which I figured would be like 180 cars, okay? So if you got 250 apartments, I'm figuring there's going to be like 500 cars involved because there is no public transportation to this area. There's no sidewalks in this area. Everybody's going to have a car. Okay. This is the examiner's report from June 15th that was signed off. And I'll read it. The examiner finds that the proposed development makes adequate provision for off-street parking, requires the applicant to provide 405 parking places, but they went up to 476. Okay, out of the 476, part of them spaces have to be for the park that's going to be provided. And they didn't specify how many. Also, 48 of these spots have to be electric charging stations. That's right in this report. If you want to look at it, it's June 15th, the examiner's report. Also, here's the paragraph right out here. Although the applicant is providing more parking than the code demands, demand for parking may exceed the supply during peak times. Therefore, some residents or guests may park on streets in the neighborhoods north of the site. On-street parking is not reserved for the owners of adjacent properties. It is available to all members of the public for any legal use on a first-come, first-served basis. You know how many people are going to be mad if they end up with 100 cars? I figure there's going to be at least 100 cars extra. Where are these people going to park? The only place they can park is north of, in them communities north of Lewis River Road. If you look at the other two, the other apartment complexes in town, the one down by Promise Church, there's all kinds of on-street parking. You go down there and look, them streets are lined with cars. You go over on the other side of town and look over there, it's the same situation. We don't have that over here. And if you look at the off-streets, Insole and Gun Club, there isn't even any on-street parking on the sides there now. There's no place for it.
100% agree.
Okay.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all.
I just, yeah.
Again, it's one of those things, I'm waiting for the builder
Okay.
to come in.
Okay.
He was apartments,
Yeah.
96 homes, homes
Yeah.
you want smaller lot. I mean,
Right.
absolutely,
Right. Yeah.
we're on the same page here, John.
Okay, great. I just wanted to bring you up because I know you weren't here when this all started.
I was in
and,
these
and
meetings.
these two guys weren't here either.
Yep.
So, and you probably knew about it, but I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention because there's going to be a lot of unhappy people if they have all these people parking in front of their houses day and night.
Right.
Thank you.
It goes, and again, this is Todd's view. I'm
Uh-huh.
always willing to give my opinion, and
Yeah.
if people want to listen, they can. It goes back to Woodland. We need to decide what we want to do.
Right.
If we want to do moratorium, or if we want to, I mean, if the zoning is this and they fall in compliance, it's not like we can get into a legal battle and say,
Right.
aha, sorry. So it's one of those things that we, as a governing body up here,
Yeah.
need to work on.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you for coming out, sir. Keith. I didn't see you back there. Sorry, sir.
Thank you. I just came from a very spirited Planters Days meeting, and we're gearing up. Before I go on about Planters Days, I have to say that without Clark Cowlitz Fire Rescue and their participation in Planters Days, it wouldn't be the same because they help with the carnival, the parade, and the barbecue, and probably some more stuff too. So they deserve a lot of appreciation for that. So they really help out with fundraising in their programs as well as their primary job of helping rescue people and save lives. Planners Days, the tickets are for sale. We have a very sharp group of princesses out in the community selling tickets, and it sounds like they're killing it already. So new things for the event this year. We'll have a Woodland's Strongest competition going on Friday, as well as La Lusca Foundation will be having a performance, and there's just a whole bunch of cool stuff in the works. So if you want to get involved, be a sponsor, donate prizes, or be a volunteer on one of our committees, get a hold of me, and we'll make it happen. And that's all I need. Thanks.
Can I ask a question? Was there something for La Lusca, like an event or something? I thought I got a letter in the mail.
They're having a bunch of events. I think the best thing to go to their website. But yeah, they're going to do something specifically as part of the Planters Days.
I thought there was like an auction or something coming up.
Yes, they're going to have a fundraising auction coming up. So
Do you know that day by chance?
I don't.
Okay. 16? Thank you. And the other question I had, is your issue that you brought up last time any better? The complaint
Yes,
you
the
had?
dog.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Sure is. Noticeably.
Okay.
Thank you for checking on that.
Working on it. I just want to give a shout out. We do have a princess in the room since you brought up ticket sales.
And my vice president is here, Commissioner Bork. He's our vice president, and he helps all this happen too. I could just go on and on, but thank you. Any other questions?
No, absolutely. Savannah, if you want to stand up, give a little wave. So,
And I'll get with you and come and sit with you, and you can listen to me talk for how long.
absolutely, I'll
Assume-
sit and talk right back with you.
I love it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Any other items not on the agenda? Come on up, sir.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I just want to double back on the fire department. On Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, my 82-year-old father-in-law fell in his garage and laid in the garage for 2.5 hours before I went to check on him, and he lives independently. And the fire department, when I called 911, they were there in under 5 minutes. And one of the paramedics that was here tonight, he didn't get his name, he was there. And they were so professionally run, it was just like clockwork of how they were doing administering medicines, cross-checking on each other and taking care of it. So thank you very much, very much.
Absolutely. Thank you for the comments. Any other comments for people not on the agenda? Okay. Items on the agenda. I have Aaron Thoney.
Some of you all, I don't know. Erin Thoney. I'm here about the workshop later on with the port. I highly encourage the council, the city, to actually work with the port, especially on the previous infrastructure study, which started actually with me when we wanted to put a temporary trailer with one toilet for a part-time person for a layout yard on property that was not farmable. And we were told, you can't do that. There's no capacity in the sewer lines. There's no capacity in the water lines. You'd have to put in all the roads and all this other stuff, and absolutely no. So I talked to Jennifer, and that's what started the infrastructure study. That infrastructure study did not involve us. They never asked us questions. And they're off. And I kept asking for the status of it. Completely ignored, intentionally disregarded. Thankfully Jennifer gave it to me. Do I agree with everything in the infrastructure study? No. There is a couple things that I definitely disagree with. And one of them, of course, is the transportation. When we were told we were going to be annexed in 2010, we had to pay for our transportation plan, and that transportation plan was adopted by the city council, and every comprehensive plan and transportation plan since then has completely ignored that. what that has done is there is a major pinch point, and I've also brought this up at major previous city council meetings, is there, and I'm going to hand this to you. I apologize, it looks much better in color, but my color printer right now is broken. Is there is a major pinch point problem right now at the Davidson Avenue Railroad crossing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, no.
So what happens is you can get stuck on top of the railroad tracks with no place to go. And a train can be coming. So I'm very concerned about that. So I highly encourage that the city actually do the planning down there that needed to happen years ago. Work with the port because they are highly capable and highly intelligent, instead of the mentality of whoever builds first gets to decide what happens, because that's going to put in a whole lot more problems that we don't need. There's already enough problems. So again, just don't ignore us. That's it.
Thank you for coming, first off. And second off, I absolutely agree with working with and partnering with the port. One of my views is the port, the school district, the city of Woodland, we are three large bodies in the city of Woodland. We all should be rowing and paddling and going in the same direction here, because our city is better when we're all going in the same direction. We don't always have to agree, but we need to partner and work together as a community. So 100% agree with what you're saying there, Aaron. So thank you. Any other comments on items on the agenda? Okay. Approve the agenda?
Motion to
approve. Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Sorry about that.
Amanda?
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston.
Okay. Reports of standing committees. Human Resources, Councilmember Dowdy.
All right, tonight we met at 6:10. Councilmember Smith, Councilmember Hall, myself, and Mayor Deinhardt were all in attendance. We discussed that our code enforcement part-time position has resigned, and February 29th will be their last day. The position has been posted as a part-time position, and so if you know anybody interested in that, tell them to apply. Public Works, the position for director is going to be closed March 4th, and then we will look at all applicants and start interviewing for that position. The mayor is looking at no city administrator being hired at this time, and looking at moving some things around and creating maybe a little bit different structure, and also looking at some salary structures. And we should have some more news at our second meeting in March. And we adjourned at 6:44.
Any questions from council for Ms. Dowdy? Okay. Finance Committee.
Finance Committee, we met today, 6 o'clock. Our sales tax is up, which is good. And just for your information, we got our bills for the election. $7,000. It's on.
Just right in front of you.
I should find it. Okay, do you hear me? Yes. Okay, thank you. $7,000 for the primary election, 5,000, just here under 5,000 for the general election, and $17,000 for the books and stuff like that. So, and otherwise than that, we got a lot of stuff to study here. And we adjourned about 6:30. Yes, I wrote it down. 6:30 something. Any questions?
Questions from council? Okay, reports of city council. Mr. Hall.
Yeah, we're on the second half of the legislative session in Olympia. So if anybody, the chamber sponsors that legislative call every Tuesday morning, and it's really informative. So if you have a interest in those things, look up the number. You can contact Carrie and find out, how to get on that call. But it's very informative, and they're at this point there's only, I think, 2 more in this session, so we're winding down. But it's really good to know what Olympia is doing to get a step ahead of it, possibly. So anyway, that's all I have.
Yep.
I have 2 things. One, I just want to thank everybody that had gone out and voted either way you voted in the special election. It looks like our levy did pass, and that our kids are going to have some funding next year to be able to bring some things back to some of the students who've really been affected this year. So thank you for all those that did turn out either way you voted. I just appreciate those that did take the time to vote. Also, as Savannah's going around to businesses, it has been really nice getting to know some of our industrial area in town and some of the businesses that we have that I don't necessarily venture out to that often. It's been really neat kind of seeing some things that are hidden really far back, and I didn't realize we're actually in our town. So that's been really fun. It's kind of exploring different areas that I didn't think our town was as big as it was in some of the industrial roads. They just keep going. So that's been kind of fun this last week, and just exploring our town. So
Mr. Houston.
I just want to bring something up that I want to bring in front of council in a couple meetings or so. We're trying to get some funding and to get some exercise equipment put down at Horseshoe, if we can get approved. Here's some, you just pass those down, for around the track that they put down at the lake. I think it would be kind of neat to have exercise stations along the path, but I'll bring it at a later date. I'm just working on getting the funding and approval first.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. Chamber. Ms. Swire, come on up, please.
Good evening. I'm Carrie Swire, the Chamber's Executive Director. Hello. I'll first report on the Visitor Center. It's still a little slow. Winter's still upon us. We are closed Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Johnston Ridge is still closed from that landslide last April, and we still do not have a date where that will be open. And the Ape Caves are closed. So tourist activities up toward the mountain are a little slow right now, but we're excited because come April, get the tulips and the lilac gardens. Lilac Gardens, Hulda Klager will open April 20th. And I think Holland America opens in April when the tulips decide to open up. Right now, Love Street Playhouse has a great play. I was able to go opening night. Saw a few familiar faces there. Wait Until Dark is a exciting, kind of scary play, but I recommend anyone that needs something to do on the weekend to go to that. And Laluska Cultural Center, they open their doors in April on Thursdays. But to answer, was it your question, Mr. Smith? On March 6th at 4:30, they're having their first in a long time full-on fundraiser, refreshments, masked performance. That starts at 4:30. And if you go to laluska.org, you can reserve tickets. They're asking that you do reserve tickets because they're about half sold out already. So
I think
Yeah.
I think as far as council goes, we all have invitations in our box,
wonderful.
mailbox at the
Yeah,
office.
they did mail out invitations. So, yeah. The chamber, we're off to a great start this year. The chamber's energized. We're growing. We're networking. Our lunch meetings are every Tuesday at noon at the Oak Tree. Everyone is invited to come. Today we had an amazing presentation from Nancy Chenault. She is the spokesperson for Castle Rock Blooms, which is part of America in Bloom, and she really energized the room with the potential of what a community focused around flowers, not just flowers, trees, a lot of different variety of things that bring a community together. I think the whole room felt pretty energized by that, and I have her card and some brochures from her at the visitor center. If anyone wants that, feel free to stop by. Next week, we're having our first member mixer. We're going to try out something different. Instead of a speaker, we're going to talk about, well, today, I'm going to back up a little bit. Today, our board had their 2024 retreat. We talked a lot about what we want to do in 2024, how we see the chamber, what we've done great, what we need to work on. And next Tuesday, we want to bring that to our members and share some of that. We're also going to have some fun. I might actually have a couple games going on. You can pick up your 2024 membership directories. If you want to sign up for a committee to be on with the board members, that will be an opportunity for everyone there too. And just, I think, spend a little time enjoying each other in a way that I'm finding that they're doing more and more of every week. So we're just gonna spend a little more time doing that on that day, next Tuesday. We'll be raffling off several things. We've encouraged everyone to bring some swag and gift cards from your business. If you bring a friend or a colleague, you'll get a free raffle ticket. So that's a little bit of an encouragement. The week after the mixer, on the 5th of March, we have Becca Ward. She's with Spot On, she's a new member. She's small business solutions, websites, and payment methods, things like that. So she's going to present some solutions for that. And then on the 12th, we have our own Mayor Deinhardt coming to join us. So hope everyone joins us on that day. Thank you, Mr. Hall, for bringing up the legislative calls. I've been enjoying those bright and early at 7:30. And it's true. The senators and representatives, they do value this time with the chamber members and others that join the calls. And they're very informative and receptive to questions and such. So if you need information on how to log into that or join that Zoom call, just contact me. And my office is at the Visitor Center in the single wide. Everyone, I welcome people. I love visitors. Stop by and say hello. And if you want to be on my email list of updates, happy to add you, anyone. So I send them out twice a week, and there's a lot of good information on there. So, question?
What are your hours that you're in the office?
The visitor center is open 9 to 4, and I'm usually there around 9 until 3 or 4. So yeah, yep. You can always call first, but
Are you ever there on Saturday?
no.
Okay.
But I am working Sundays, so yeah.
So-
We're short-staffed, so yes.
So I gotta say, I just was checking my calendar so I can make it next Tuesday. Carrie and the chamber and the city, I mean, again, it goes back to partnership
Yep.
and collaboration. I've met a couple times now with Carrie. How can we help the chamber? How can the chamber help us? Again, we're a small community, and I know words are nothing without actions. And so, I mean, I'm trying here, and we'll be attending to these items.
We
because,
appreciate it.
again,
Thank you. Yeah.
We got to partner and do a great job with this.
Yes.
So.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
No, thank you. Reports of city officers. I'll go. So, let me just remind people, this is where I kind of like to, throw out there things that are going. And if you have questions, comments, feel free to reach out to me. If you have questions after, this little talk here, again, it's dialogue is what I want here. First thing is, I want to give a huge shout out to our city employees. They have done a great job stepping up over the last 45, 50 days of this new transition with me coming into office here. Let me give you a couple examples here where we as a community need to appreciate the hard work that our employees are doing. We will be looking to sign a $2.6 million grant donation from Cowlitz County Commissioners, the Cowlitz County tonight. That was approved in 2023 last year. We have an individual, I see Arn sitting here. Thank you for coming, Arn. Again, there was a mishap of paperwork and things that didn't happen in 2023. Catherine, who works in our engineering department, has worked diligently for 2 weeks with Cowlitz County to ensure that we weren't deobligated for that $2.6 million and that we can continue on with the Exit 21 survey. Again, that's an employee stepping up and saying, hey, I'll do my job here. I'll do what you need me to do, Todd. And I was like, hey, reach out. We need you to work with the comptroller and get the paperwork straightened out. And away we go. And so we do have that funding again. So there's one. The cleaning, we had the cleaning contract here 2 council meetings ago, 3 council meetings ago. Went back, had conversation. Couple individuals inside the city was like, well, we really don't need the cleaning this much, don't need the cleaning this much. And then Amanda over here reached out to the contractor. And so we've been able to negotiate that contract down, saving, close to $8,000 a year. Again, you can say $8,000, but again, it adds up. These are our employees who are working diligently. The Rainy Well cleaning project that people see at the pump house across from Ace Hardware, okay? People might see the crane there. Individuals work together. We got the funding for that $800,000 project. We were able to work with the contractor to do it in the month of February, March. Do it now while our water usage from our residents is lower and it's a better time to do it. Again, these are examples. I just want people to understand and appreciate what our employees are doing to, serve our community. The Civic Center. My friend Miss Swire was just up here, and we've had conversations. And I see Kim over here kind of giving me a smile. There's been a lot of conversation with the Civic Center. What are we going to do? What are we going to not do? Again, I'm here only to present facts, have dialogue, conversation. We signed a $600,000 contract last year on that thing, okay? We spent $426,000 on it so far. I think as people drive by it, they can see the $426,000. Again, is that mismanagement by our city employees and things? Not a bit at all. That $600,000 contract was there to basically hammer and pound in nails. I met with Bob Koff on the 9th of February. I think it was my job to figure out what is going on with something in our city. Okay? So he agreed that they are basically building. We are going to be providing the roofing, the painting, the exterior finishes, the landscaping, the doors, the hardware, the electrical, the lighting, restroom accessories, sidewalk. Those are things that we are paying. Okay? But we are going to make this work. We have a building there. We're going to do this as a community, and we're going to make it successful. The reason I bring this up today is one of the things I don't want people to think, well, what has, Deinhardt gone off and done here? There are a few changes to it that I have made the choice, and I want people to be aware, right, wrong, or indifferent. It's kind of what I think is best for the community as we're building this thing, and decisions need to be made. There's a fire pit that was going to be outside, a gas fire pit. I have kicked that to the curb. I'm not sure who would use, are we going to do s'mores out there or whatever? I kicked that. There was gas lantern lighting that was outside that would be running. Again, I kind of kicked that. I don't care if it's $15 or $25 extra to have gas running there. I think that we need to be conservative with our dollars. There's no refrigerator, there's no kitchen stove, there's none of those things in there to make it rentable like our community center on Park Street. I think those are things that will help make this rentable. And if the chamber comes in there, that's this thing that they can use as well. So I have made the decision we're going to try and find space in there to do that. Senior citizens, it would be a great place for senior citizens to open it up. Even if the chamber were in there, open it up a couple days and let senior citizens come in and play cards and put their casseroles in the oven, sit down and make friends within the community. Let's make this a great place for our town. I just want people to know what's going on with that piece there. As we go through different budget items, and Carrie was talking about her wonderful trailer across the street. So any questions on those things? And then also Melissa touched on the city administrator. There's some things that I think we can do rather than having a city administrator, we do need a clerk treasurer and different things there. How can we save some money? How can we beef up our funding for some of the positions here? And that's what I'm looking at, and I will bring those items to council and to you as the city to, understand what I'm doing as a direction. But obviously, I wanted to throw it by the HR committee tonight to make sure that they are on board, because a couple of these things are things that the mayor could do according to our ordinances thing. But I want to make sure that, hey, the HR committee and others are saying, yeah, that makes sense. I appreciate that, Todd. So I will be sharing those things in a month. Okay? With that, any questions you all have for me? Okay, let's move on to consent items.
How about the two upcoming meetings, events?
Oh, thank you, JJ. So upcoming meetings, public hearing on the Trammell Crow property. That is on the 28th at 1 p.m. And then we'll have a council meeting on the 4th back here. Again, full disclosure, on the 4th, I will be out of town. I'm taking my granddaughter to Disney World, my family and I are, for her first birthday. And Mr. Smith won't be here, so it will be an agenda where it will be a little bit lighter. We'll have a couple workshops. I'll call in, he'll probably call in, but I just want people to understand with the March 4th, we need to have it. We need to pay vouchers and get city business to go on. But I do want people to understand, okay, it's a little bit lighter agenda for the March 4th. Okay?
I might be gone too.
Okay?
I get my chemo started again that week, so.
Okay? Yep. Again, so full disclosure on that. Let's go to consent items.
Motion.
I move to approve the consent item.
Second.
Okay. Comment on that, JJ.
Just the report, so.
Okay?
No comment.
No comment.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Freimark,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston.
Aye.
Okay. Action item C, vouchers. They're in the directory.
I move to approve the action item C.
Second.
Okay.
I
JJ?
went through them and didn't see anything that was really to worry about. Looked good.
Okay. Mr. Hall? Yeah, just so people are aware, we do have them here, and we're doing a better job getting rid of just where it says miscellaneous, getting a little bit just bigger description, so absolutely agree. Ms. Hogan?
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Freimark,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. Moving into action item D, ordinance 1552 for garbage and recycling rate increase, final reading.
Motion to approve
Sec-
ordinance 1552.
Second.
Mr. Smith?
This is our second reading. We discussed it at the last meeting. And this is a pass-through from the garbage and recycling. So it's not something the city pays. We just pass it through from the residents.
Okay.
I concur.
Any other discussion about it?
I have a little concern that was brought up last time about the recyclables. There's so much stuff that we can't recycle,
So,
so we have to take it to the dump or something.
well, I appreciate you
Yeah.
going into this because
Thank
I
you.
have reached out to the individuals up in Cowlitz, and we have a meeting scheduled to discuss that and what it would mean and, the impacts and what we can change or not change. So, to be honest with you, I don't know what, recycling is out my side of my well, but I wanted to at least have a dialogue and conversation because the last council meeting, there was individuals who were concerned that we couldn't do all plastics and we couldn't do glass. So, 100% agree and hear
Yeah.
you, JJ.
A lot of things.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other dialogue and conversation on that?
When does that contract end as far as?
2 years.
What we've negotiated?
2025,
Okay.
Yeah, 25.
December 2025. Ms. Hogan?
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving into action item E, ordinance 1554, 2021 building code update, final reading.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Dowdy?
We have been through this and been through this, and I think that it looks great at this point, that I'm all for it.
I concur.
Any other discussion or comment about it? Ms. Hogan?
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Action item F, ordinance 1555, 2021 fire code update, final reading.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Dowdy?
Same as the last one.
Mr. Smith?
This is the same as the last one. I think, is it changing the year of the
Mm-hmm.
stuff is what we discussed at the last
Yes.
meeting? Just to give a little more information on it.
Any dialogue, conversation from others? Ms. Hogan?
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Action item G, authorize the mayor to sign a statement of work with NextWorks, our IT.
I move to approve it.
Is there a second?
Second.
You got
Mr.
that?
Hall?
Yeah, my only question, I guess, is, I'm understanding we've been working with them. Is there any issue that we're not aware of?
So it's been, again, I'm 45 days into this here. And one of my questions and things I've been having the dialogue, and I will open it up to staff over here. I haven't seen any issues here at all. They've been very responsive on issues and questions that I've had and others. But Travis or Gina or Amanda, anyone have issues, concerns?
None. No issues or concerns.
Yeah.
Mayor, I did have a question on the cloud backup. There seems to be only $200 dedicated to that. Can you go into the backup philosophy and approach in general? Your understanding of it?
The cloud base you're talking about?
Yes, mere $200.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
The cost of the item is 53,000. Is that what I'm seeing? And it's budgeted 40,000.
Correct.
Where are you pulling the other money from to pay this?
So again, these are finding efficiencies through cleaning services and other out of the general fund type items. As I've gone through the budget on different things, not to get into mine all here, but again, mine all is one of those. You know, it's close to 11,000 a month, but did we budget, you know, that whole 140,000, or was it down at 120,000? So again, there's a few items here as we go through the year where it is coming over and discussion, and we have to try and negotiate with the vendors and the contractors on that. So 100% agree on that, that it is a concern, but for 13,000.
So we'll get a budget amendment shortly.
What?
We'll get a budget amendment here.
Yes.
Okay.
Did we put this out to bid to other companies, or did we just pick, no? Just
It has not been out to bid. This one here, they've been our vendor for
yeah.
Years.
several years, and I mean,
Mhm.
again, we could certainly, you know, go that route at,
Yeah.
I mean, this is, again, where I'm kind of sitting on this. If they're a vendor such as IT that is helping us with our data and holding our data and IT support and those type of deals with a trusted service, I don't know what kind of savings we would find if we go to another service. Is it gonna save us the $10,000? I don't know, JJ. Is it gonna?
Right.
I mean, we could certainly go that route. It's sort of like the cleaning service. Yeah, let's go out to bid, because that's when, okay, we'll see if we can find savings. IT, if this was $100 and some thousand, I'd be like,
Mhm.
let's go out to bid and see if we can save thousands and thousands.
So, Mr. Mayor, has there been any employee complaints recently or that you know of any significance?
I haven't heard of one complaint about it. I haven't seen anybody, as I've been there, I haven't seen anybody without IT support, meaning I haven't seen them without their computer. Because one of the first things I would say is, well, I can't work because my computer's down. I haven't experienced that. I haven't seen that at all. So, and I guess I would open it up to the three of you. Have you had any issues, concerns?
They're 24-hour call, so
Yeah.
they respond very, very quickly.
That's good to hear.
I was locked out of my email, I think it was Friday, and within 2 minutes it was fixed.
I also have complete faith in them,
Mhm.
that I think we would be better off renewing this than actually trying to go out for an RFP to look for a different vendor. I'm that secure in the service that we get.
When I came into office, they were there, got me hooked up, had the old equipment secured. I mean, I was very impressed with, they actually showed up on January 2nd, 8 a.m. and were ready to move us through, so.
They actually have a staff member that is here in Woodland locally. So if
Oh.
we need someone actually on site, they're here.
Oh, okay.
So,
I just thought that I'd ask that question because I thought you should go to bid anyway.
100%,
But,
I mean,
yeah.
I appreciate it. I'm not, I think questions are great. This is where we learn from each other, so,
Yeah.
totally.
I mean, it's a good price.
So any other conversation I have,
Do
a
we
first and a
have-
second?
Is this just a yearly contract with them, or
Yearly,
do we
yeah.
have a long-term contract at all?
Yearly.
Yearly.
Okay.
Ms. Hogan, you want to take a vote?
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Freimark,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. Moving to the next action item H, authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Advanced Excavating Specialists for water treatment plant static mixer and pipe replacement project.
Motion
Move.
to approve?
Second?
Okay.
Melissa?
Yeah, it is coming in under
Yep.
what we budgeted for, and it's definitely something that needs to be done. So I think I'm all for saving us money, and glad it came in so much under budget.
Who was that saying? Was that you, Mr.
No,
Burke,
no,
or
I
is that
think it was-
Mr. Hall?
I think
Or Mr. Smith? Mr. Smith.
No, I'm good with it. I'm all for maintenance and improving stuff and making sure that everything's running well.
Agreed. Any other comment, discussion around this one? Ms. Hogan?
Councilmember Freimark,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. Moving into the next action item I, authorize the mayor to sign an agreement to accept funding from Washington State Department of Transportation for the Gun Club Road Sidewalk, Bike Lane, and ADA project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Burke?
Yeah, let's get that done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gun Club, we've been wanting
talked about
that
it.
sidewalk and bike lane and everything done. I know people are asking for a way to slow down traffic, and I don't know if that's possible, but definitely getting the fix and all the improvements done is necessary, so glad we got the money.
A little bit of color into this. I mean, I appreciate you all. I mean, don't want to sway you one way or the other, because I agree that we do need to do this. I just want the community and people to know, originally, when we started this whole thing out in 2022, the west side was going to do some ADA, the east side was going to do some sidewalks. So this is providing us with the funding, so then we will go get the project dirt ready and away we go. So, it's a little two-step process, and this is, you know, not gonna be the full overlay. This is the ADA and the sidewalk pieces, so.
I like,
Is
I
there
like
any,
the ADA stuff, but I don't like those rumble things they put on the sidewalk. They're really bad for wheelchairs.
is there matching funds on this, or is it just fully?
Full, well, so we have, a little over $150,000 in matching funds that we'll be paying.
Okay.
So, yep, 600,000 coming from this, and then we have 150,000
Right.
roughly of matching.
Okay.
About 20%.
Okay. Any other comment or discussion around this item? Ms. Hogan?
Councilmember Freimark,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving into action item J, authorize the mayor to sign subrecipient agreement with Cowlitz County for ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act funding towards Exit 21 project.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Dowdy?
I am so thankful that our city worked so hard in the last week or two to make sure that we did not lose this because of what happened last year. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and also thank you to Arn for all that he did as well in making this happen. So just very thankful.
I would echo those same statements from what the mayor's telling us. There's one individual in the city who had a great deal of effort to make this happen, so thank you.
Any other comment or discussion around this? Again, I like to give a little bit of color on this. So I've been working with Kittleson and Sons, the consultants on that project. I met with them today on this. Again, I think it's important that the community understand where we're at on this project, what is happening, where we're at. So the plan is for them to come to the March 18th meeting, and they will provide a new project plan, walk through the different items and what is going on with this piece here. I want us to be partnering with them and understanding where are we at each step of the way. So they're creating this new timeline and will be coming in a month to talk to us. Okay? Any other discussion around accepting these funds? Ms. Hogan?
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Freimark.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving into action item L, request approval of a public participation plan for the periodic update to the City of Woodland Comprehensive Plan.
That's Jay.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. I jumped. Action item K, I apologize, everyone. Authorize the mayor to sign professional services agreement with Gibbs and Olson for design of the South Peak and Overlay Project.
No.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Smith?
South Pekin is in bad need of repair, especially I'm hearing a lot of discussion about the roadway traffic that happened on it and made it quite badly, so this is much needed. And it looks like 70,000 of the for the matching, and we budgeted 80. The roads are so bad here that I know when they redid Willow, it cost a bunch more money on top of it because the roads are so thin. So we might want to pay attention to that and see if same thing with Gun Club eventually in that area. But I think we need to be concerned about that, the extra costs.
Item K, this is the design work for the overlay, the
We
80,000.
didn't do Jay?
We did. We just
You
voted
did?
on it.
J was the exit
Oh, okay.
21. K is the,
Okay.
yeah. I had a
You didn't have
second
it,
down
right?
here.
Yeah, I agree that Pekin is, we've had a lot of comments from our citizens, and you've been heard, and I'm glad we got this money so that we can start taking care of those problems that people have mentioned over and over again, so.
Any other discussion?
No, it needs it.
Ms. Hogan?
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Freimark,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Now we'll go into action item L. I apologize.
Okay.
Request approval of a public participation plan for the periodic update to the City of Woodland Comprehensive Plan.
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
JJ.
It's under budget, and we need to get it done, and I think we need to approve it.
Mr. Hall?
Yeah, this is for public
Yeah.
participation, and that's obviously what we want and before we move forward with the plan, so
Right.
we need to do it.
Travis, did you have something you wanted to say about it, or?
Unless you have questions.
Mr. Smith?
Do we normally have a decent turnout for people that come to this, or is it pretty low numbers?
So typically, the open houses are not that well attended, but what we did in 22 and 23 is we tried to do some specific updates to our comprehensive plan. This is essentially a whole rewrite, and the next agenda item is to engage a consultant who will be doing a majority of the analysis and lay out a lot of that communication, and staff will be supporting them in that effort. But this time it will be more of a coordinated effort with the consultant's help.
Any other discussion, questions?
One more question. I know it was talked about in the past of trying to like have more public input at events around town as far as like football game or something. Is that a discussion again to try to get more input from community members?
It is. We are going to take a look at the ultimate budget and look for opportunities to provide meals and more food to get people out. And we've also been talking with some of the organizations around town about using the clubhouses at the individuals and to go to the churches to try and meet them on site when they have people in their buildings already. So we're looking at multiple opportunities to engage the public where they already are, as opposed to asking them to come out when it's convenient for us.
Okay, thank you.
And I would ask all 50 of you in the room that are here, please participate and be part of the discussion when we get to that point. My plug for the night.
Travis usually brings candy bars too, by the way.
Ms. Hogan?
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Freimark,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving into action item M, authorize the mayor to enter into a contract with SCJ Alliance to perform the periodic update to the City of Woodland Comprehensive Plan.
Move to approve that.
Second.
Mr. Burke?
Same thing. I agree. And it's under budget,
Yep.
so.
No comment.
Any other discussion?
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Freimark,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston.
Aye.
The ayes have it. With that, we will move into a workshop, but I'm going to say we're going to take a 5-minute break, and we will start back here at 8:27.
Okay, so I'm going to give you some background, and we're going to talk about next steps and where we can partner on this. So next slide. So the Woodland Industrial Feasibility Study area, as Ms. Thoney mentioned, this is an area, so if you know where Guild Road from Pekin all the way to the city limits, and encompasses 426 acres of zoned light industrial. At the time of the study that the city took this on, it was probably somewhere about 10% developed. Since then, we're about 25 to 30% developed today. Next slide. So, history of the Woodland Industrial Feasibility Study. There's good, there's bad, there's the ugly parts of this. So, as Ms. Thoney stated back when the city was looking at their Growth Management Act and needed to annex additional industrial land, they came to the property owners. This was all farmland, and the annexation occurred in steps. But as part of that annexation, this transportation plan was completed by the property owners. This moved the agricultural land out of their zone and moved it into a light industrial zoning that met the requirements of balancing out your residential, commercial, open space, and industrial. Infrastructure investments to the properties were agreed to between the city and the property owners at that time. So with those the transportation plan, the city said, okay, we will bring you in and we will do these improvements. This was completed with ordinance number 1198. So this is an incredibly important ordinance and hard to find. Thanks to Ms. Thoney for getting me a copy of that. Back in 2016, a previous city public works staff member, Jody, and I worked in partnership regarding a larger area which incorporated included our Guild 1 and then future Guild 2. And we were trying to figure out how to bring the industrial development down from Heritage Road, so where Lifeport is and American Paper converting, continue it on and not be able to make 90-degree bends. Because if you know anything about sewer, it does not like 90-degree bends. So we would have had to take, I think, 3 90-degree turns with the sewer, which was without, and then there was issues with the degree of flow and such. It couldn't happen without several lift stations, but it couldn't also meet to these properties. Later, we did a presentation, a joint presentation at the IACC conference in Wenatchee, and presented the idea. And what was nice about this is a tech team, you're able to have federal and state funders in the room. You pitch the project, they tear it apart, they work with you, and they put the project together, and they give you a form that says these are the grants or loans that are available to you to apply for. After that, that information was presented at that time to Mayor Finn. And also a curb grant was supposed to be applied for to do the next step. That was not completed. And then the study kind of started, or the process started floundering. However, additional requirement or additional interest within the industrial area started occurring between different public works directors, and the city agreed to do the study. Originally, the port was part of that plan. However, because the property owners were not going to be engaged, we required that an advisory committee be included. That was not agreed to, and so the funding from the port was not agreed to at that point. Next slide. So, what is an ordinance 1198? So the ordinance was passed in December 2010. The concept was to extend Sherman Way through to Gorig Road It also provides for a road to extend to the end of Port Way. So if you know where, let's see, our Sherman Way building and where there's a vacant 27 acres where Brown Strauss is going to maybe someday develop, go all the way through, turn, and come out by AmeriGas. So eventually it was supposed to cut down there and then connect. Another road was supposed to be extended from Stenerson Road, which is a county road, beyond the Guild intersection through to Caples and zigzag back and forth to an unnamed road. Today, that concept would not be relative. However, this ordinance was included and adopted by the city's comp plan at that time. In 2016, it was removed from the comp plan, likely because many of these items were not feasible given the development that was occurring in this industrial area. However, the requirements of the infrastructure that the city agreed to are still intact, which means that those property owners, like the Thonies, the Bozarths and such, still have that recourse on the city. Next slide. So, in 2019, the feasibility study was underway with Gibbs and Olson. They were the consultant on record for this. This is the overall was a 3 to 5% review of the environmental components, the geotechnical review, a market and economic analysis, transportation analysis, recommended roadways, water, sewer, and storm utilities, estimated cost on recommended roads and utilities, recommended Phase 1 roads and utilities to increase marketability of the project area, Phase 1 infrastructure estimated costs, potential funding program summary for Phase 1 project, and recommended next step. So I'll cover some of these pieces, but one of the big things to note for the environmental, geotech, and transportation, no borings, no actual on-the-ground survey composition work was done. So this was more of a desktop, so it requires a significant amount more work to be accomplished. Due to the vast area of the 426 acres, this would be more of a per project, per property development, depending on, size of buildings, the amount of land that's taken up, wetlands, if there's any, things like that. So, again, this is why the environmental and geotechnical were not completed in a more thorough basis. Also, for State Environmental Protection Act, those would be completed at a later stage. Okay, next slide. So one of the big things that we're all concerned about is transportation. So the key areas of the transportation included looking at the 2040 build plus alternatives. A lot of this information took from the Kittleson and Associates Exit 21, as well as other projects that were going on in the region, of all of the traffic studies and transportation studies that have been done for other projects. In this case, with this full build out, the easiest thing to state is both exits, exit 21 and exit 22, will fail. That's it. So because the work that you guys are doing on exit 21, it will require that now we start working on exit 22. So this did not take in account to any residential development occurring. So this is only off of if this was fully developed at industrial standards of this 426 acres. Exit 22 fails. Nothing else in the bottoms, nothing else anywhere else upriver. This is only looking in this portion of the property. This will take it over the edge. Next slide.
I just want to be clear, Jennifer. When you say it would fail, that is exit 21 would fail with as it stands right now, not if we have improvements or anything. I just want to be clear so people understand.
Correct. The because at the time, exit 21, the design had not been selected.
Correct.
for that.
Yep, I just want to,
Yep.
I don't want people to think, oh, well, we're designing something that's going to fail
No.
already, so.
No, however, with this being developed, depending on also what happens in the Woodland Bottoms as well as upriver, exit 21, even with all the things you're going to potentially do, could still put it back into a lower grade towards failing.
And that's why we need to, as we do this with Kittle Center work, we need to make sure we're fully inclusive, working with the port.
Right.
And understanding what his long-term plans are.
And as well as all of the things that are happening at the Woodland Bottoms, as well as up in South Cowlitz County and North Clark County. These are going to be incredibly important aspects, because if 21 spills over to 22, that preemptively fails it without all this development.
Agreed, so.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, no problem. So under the feasibility study, the transportation needs were identified as 6 major projects. Those included the Howard Industrial Extension, which we now call Roseway. We were the first one to build, so we got to name it. So we named it after the rose growers operation that was out there, so Roseway. Then we have the Howard Pekin Connector. So that's number 2 on the map. This based off of the Trammell Crow development, as well as how it phases out with where the wetlands have been identified and the slough. This would not be feasible. Number 3 is Caples Road, an existing road, but however, it needs significant improvements, as well as industrial infrastructure. So it would be need to be completely redone. 4A is Gorig Road, existing road, but again, Old Farm Road, you're going to have all of those infrastructure pieces done, as well as the road and widening and such. The Gorig intersection, so the pinch point, this obviously needs to be addressed. The number 5 is the Gorig connector. However, we believe that based off of the property configuration, this is probably not the best way to do this road, is to extend it, especially with the talking with Cowlitz County and their utilities engineer. This is not likely to continue because it goes right towards a bunch of white oaks and the pumpkin patch. So that's not a good idea. And the final one is the Gorig Whalen connector. This would split right down the Thoney's property, these 5-acre lots that are split up there. That was done many eons ago. At that time, 5 acres, you actually could do industrial development on there. In this today, you would probably have to repackage this. So this would need to be more thoroughly worked through with the Thoney family. To identify how that connection would work. But again, that would not work with extending through. We did explore that through our review of bringing in roadways. Again, you're going right through Critical Farms, the pumpkin patch, and it hits right into Whalen Road right as it starts to ascend over the railroad tracks. So it's not going to pass that. One of the other pieces to consider also is a lot of this was being talked about was the Carpenino project was being discussed, and they were moving forward. At this time, that's kind of stalled. We're not really sure how that's going to progress on that property, but that would likely change that potential. Next slide. So this is the big one. How much is this going to cost? So thanks to Gibbs Olson, Rich Gushman was able to do an accelerator from the 2020 dollars based off of this 3 to 5% desktop to a full build out. Overall, this is a daunting task if you take on these dollars. There is not one funding pot out there that could do all of this, or even one piece of this. So this is where it really requires everybody to work together with the property owners, with the port, with the city to get these things done. As we talked about, given some of the changes of the projects and where roadway and sewer, water, these costs, everything elevated 40%. we would anticipate these dollars are even more. So, however, one of the things I want to bring is that we would suggest that that the council consider setting priorities of these projects based off of 1 through 1, 3, 4, 6, and 7. And we anticipate that based off of the priority and the potential that the Roseway extension, which would be project 1, would be the first, followed by Caples, then Gorig, and the Gorig Crossing. Now, not saying that any of these projects individually could happen. This is a domino. Each one has to happen, and then you've got to do. So how we kind of plan things out is, as we're planning, we plan the first project, we get that going. As soon as that's under design engineering, we start exploring the potential for the next project. As that's getting constructed, we start engineering. And we just do this cycle all the way through with all of our projects. This is what I suggest to get this going, because as soon as you improve Roseway, you're going to have traffic going down there with the developments and everything. This is going to go on to Caples. It's going to put that pinch point of Gorig. So we're going to see that. However, one item that was not addressed in the study but was brought up by city staff was Pekin. As you know, yes, you're doing the overlay. However, that's an old county road. It needs to be, it's not adequate for the industrial traffic we have today. We do not have sidewalks. We do not have turn lanes. It's not wide enough for trucks. And so you're seeing, this is why it's just tearing apart and not working. For the existing traffic, we need to have it work for the industrial traffic we have today and for the future. So, next slide. So this is the full build out to the costs. Again, the dollar amounts just get larger and larger to the point where it's almost nauseating. Council should note that this is for the entire investment. Again, we make suggestions that project 2 be eliminated. So this would reduce it a little bit. Project 6 be eliminated because of confirmation from the county of how to work that in with roads for the future going out into the Woodland Bottoms, and should be coordinated with the county. This is likely not going to be the route that they're going to prefer. Project 7 should probably be moved out and coordinated with current city efforts for the Pekin improvements that you have and approved tonight. So the next slide, please. Feasibility study, the need. So why should the city invest taxpayer dollars into this area? The region within the greater Portland area is short on industrial land. Few sites have greater than 50 acres. We get calls on a regular basis for larger industrial lots of land. Industry wants to own their own properties, not as much want to lease land. Actually, this is why several years ago we ended up selling several of our parcels, because they want to have that investment. And when they are leasing land, they cannot have that investment. Cowlitz County has an estimated 1,325 acres of other available industrial land throughout the county. Within our region, or within Cowlitz County, Deep Draft Port Development has 482 acres. So Deep Draft means that we're talking the Port of Longview, Port of Kalama, Port of Woodland, of what we have to the navigation channel. So what we can actually develop. So there's very little property. Most of the actual Port of Woodland has most of that property. And so there's very little available property. Industrial development, there's 843 acres. Study area represents 51 of Cowlitz County area available for industrial development. So by having this property ready to go, these properties will be a better investment for this city. Next slide. So the type of industries, we always hear about, well, what type of industries are you going to invite here? Are they going to be good for our community? Are they going to create family wage jobs? Are they going to invest in our Little League and Sky Hill Park or whatever community events? Are we going to see them on Planters Days? This is some of the things that we vet out with companies that do come to Woodland. So right now, I will say, though this list was in 2020, the market has not changed a whole heck of a lot. We still have a lot towards construction and manufacturing. Wholesale trade is going down, transportation and warehousing. We anticipate an uptick with changes in Clark County to their allowing of large manufacturing spaces. Lewis County has done a lot of changes to their allowance of warehousing. I don't anticipate or haven't heard anything of that with Cowlitz County yet, but having large warehousing spaces where you have very few employees, not always good. And it's not the greatest use of your land. So you want manufacturing, you want to have a diverse array of
And that was
industry.
one of the questions I was going to ask you is number of employees per square foot. I mean,
Yeah, so for industrial, we used to target 7, now we're down to 5 because of automation.
got it.
Yep. But these are more of high wage jobs. More of the industry that are coming here are looking at $100,000 or more for full-time employees. So what they're looking at is there's a huge investment they're making, bringing these employees. Their employees are looking for a community where they can get the employees here, that they can have housing, that they have good schools, they have good community amenities. But the businesses are looking, am I able to get through the permitting process? Is it timely? Is it cost efficient? Are the impact fees going to kill me? What is it? And is my business going to be successful here?
Yep. Okay, so it's
Yep.
decreased a little bit.
Right. Woodlands employment, so we've seen, obviously in our community and the information from Gibbs and Olson, we kind of stray a little bit of how we look at the data. But they state that the industrial sector employment within Cowlitz County has been increasing. I would say it's more staying flat. Where it's getting harder getting through the permitting process and getting those large companies here and having the available amenities that industry is looking for, as well as we're competing with other areas throughout the United States, especially for us, we are competing with Idaho a lot more. So one of the things that we have for our strength is we're outside of I-5 and 205. That is a critical component. We're only 25 minutes from PDX on a good day. So those are critical. We also have a dual service rail service here, which means we have Union Pacific and we are served by BNSF. So not a lot of areas throughout the rail. This is, we're served through Longview switching, but that's a critical thing for businesses looking at any kind of rail service. We also can extend rail, whether you're looking at the Sherman Spur that we own or with the Columbia River Carbonates if they choose to extend their spur.
Got it.
Okay. Some of the other things that are important is to consideration that what is coming possibly in the future, which is looking at potentially a collector slip lane, if we did that on either side of I-5, the discussions of a third bridge over the Lewis to get into Clark County and sneak over to exit 16. Or another exit ramp, and this is one that Travis has whispered in my ear numerous times, is exit 20 or 23, I don't know which number it would go.
Which one you want.
Okay. It's not just me. I think everybody would like to see another exit sometimes around here. And so these improvements and then whatever improvements happen at exit 21, as well as whatever kind of improvements that can be done with exit 2. It is limited because of the rail and the mountainside right there. So it was tricky when they designed it. It's going to be even trickier to try to fix it. Next slide. So the economic impact. So at full build-out, this industrial development could generate 2,447 to 3,670 jobs. That is a significant increase to our community. And people want to be working closer to home. So right now, most of our industrial workers actually travel outside the area or they travel into the area. I would say of our port tenants, most people who work at our port facilities do not live in Woodland. So very few of them do. Labor income would generate somewhere within 166 to 250 million, and annual state and local taxes are estimated at 40 to 60 million dollars a year. So this could be quite significant to the city. At the time of this study, it's very important to state this, that the square footage was estimated to be $1 to $1.50 a square foot. So the land value in this area would be 19.6 to 29.4 million. Even on my best calculations, I could not tell you that the assessed value was going to increase so significantly within this area as well as within Woodland. These numbers are probably closer to 35 to 40 million today. The land value that with these improvements at the time were $4.5 to $6 a square foot. These are easily somewhere to $8 to $10 a square foot today. So, next slide. So with all of that information, if you were to choose to adopt this plan and move to the next steps, how do we fund this? How do you take a bite out of the elephant? It's going to take a lot of bites. You're going to have a lot of different funding. So there's CURB, and that's a state economic revitalization funding source. Their max value is $3 million. But again, that's going to require, that's a partial loan or a significant loan and requires match. You have Economic Development Administration, that is a federal program. There in the study, it stated about $3 million. They can go up to about $5 million for a project, and they are 50% grant. And so you would have the other half being either state or other federal program or local match. There's .09 rural development funds. We usually don't see anything more than about $1 million to $2 million at a time for the county to release. There's Public Works Trust Fund. That's a state program. Only the city is eligible. The port is not eligible to apply for Public Works Trust Fund. The port could create a Port Industrial Development District, which means that we identify a specific area and we take our entire port district, which goes all the way up to Cougar, and we say this is such a vital development for our port district that we will tax the entire port district. And that can go up to 45 cents. Ports are only allowed 2 in the lifetime of the port. So they use this very sparingly. This is not a well-liked program. Ports don't do it very often. And usually when they do, even though it's found to be a critical project, most of the commissioners see themselves out the door the next election. So it has to be a pretty good project.
So, first thing that comes to mind when I see this here and I see your funding options and everything, competing with Exit 21.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't put any of these funds, I didn't put the RAISE grant, I didn't put any of those that you're going after.
Because again, I mean, we have $2.6 million that we're doing a feasibility.
Right.
But I mean, it's 30 to 35, I mean.
60 million probably today.
Exactly, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure, I mean, I would hate for competing projects here to be going to the same sources.
Correct. You're going, in a project like that, you're going to be looking at WashDOT dollars, you're going to be looking at build, raise, any of those big infrastructure. None of those are listed here.
Thank you for the education.
Yep.
I mean, again.
Yep, no problem.
Learning curve here with me, so thank you.
Grants are my thing. City bond, you could bond that, but the property owners will tell you right off the bat, no. Just like an LID, they do not want it. They were promised something by the city in that ordinance and that agreement, and they have very clearly said no. We have spoken to and met with 98% of the property owners. Only one we had not heard from through workshops and meetings, and every single one said, we don't want to pay anymore. This is what was in that ordinance. Finally, there's the tax increment financing. This is a funding source that was altered in 2021, and what it allows is, it's not a new tax, but what it does is it sweeps taxes from junior taxing districts, and so what it does is it freezes the rate. So let's say if you set it at 2025 levels, and as those improvements happen, you can, or you take that money, and you bond against that, those bonds are paid by the improved assessed value. So you stay until those bonds are paid off. You would stay at that 2025 level until they were done. And it's only for that area. So you identify the properties, it's only that assessed value that is targeted. It doesn't impact the rest of the area. However, this is not very popular to junior taxing districts. You can talk to your fellow city at Ridgefield and find out how that went through. And with the fire department and everybody being surprised by how they were doing it. However, we feel like no surprise is good. So, if this was done, this would be a collaborative partnership to do something of this sort. Okay, next slide. So, next steps. So currently, I'm in talks with the property owners along the red dash line, which I'm sorry, you can't really see too well from here. I start kind of pointing it out with the blue line. But just at the end of our Roseway Industrial Park all the way through Caples. This would be the Roseway Extension Project. This would serve 194 acres. We have, all of the property owners are agreeable to provide right-of-way, and one of the developers, Trammell Crow, is willing to provide additional cash to match any of the funds that we would be able to receive. I have submitted an application to CURB for the planning, or it's called site readiness. So for planning, design, and engineering to extend this roadway, the roadway and the infrastructure. And so we're under a pretty tight timeline. The presentation is on March 21st, and we would be able to know right then and there. They vote in front of you. We would know if we've got the funding, and we'd be getting that underway very quickly to meet the different property owners and developers' timeline. The next step would be applying for construction money. We will be submitting an application to Cowlitz County for .09 rural development funds. We're requesting $300,000 from their funds to match potential construction dollars that we would apply for through CURB, and that would be our match for a $3 million request. So that's where we're hopeful that you will be supportive of that project and that action, which leads to next steps. The next slide. So for you is that the council, you've had this study now 3 years, not all of you, but it's been in the city. And for the city to move to the next step, you do need to adopt the plan. Even in its errors, but what that will allow you to do is go to the next step of doing the planning. And so I think that's a critical component to be able to do that. You are eligible to apply for CURB money to do some of this planning of the next step, which we would suggest that being Caples Road. So we kind of see this as working in lockstep with each other of trying to get these things taken care of, is while we take on Rose Way, you guys take on Caples, we'll support each other in moving this along. As well as allows for you to, as for you guys, you need to adopt the plan because it's not in your comp plan right now. So you cannot apply for any grants at this time or any funding sources until you adopt this plan. Let's see, I think that is it.
Melissa has it.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. For you to do your meeting in March, do we have to adopt this prior to that meeting?
No, so the Port Commission adopted the plan back in 2021 after Rich Gishman presented it to the City Council at that time. Rich Gishman came and presented the study to the Port. We held 2 workshops, and then it was adopted into our comp plan that fall. So we're already eligible.
Okay. And then I have another question, and it may not necessarily be for you, but just something for us to think about. I recently did a walkthrough with Councilmember Houston, and we did things through the water treatment plant and through that. And I know some of their concerns is that as our growth happens, our treatment plants and our water facilities not being able to keep up with our growth. And for industrial, the pipe sizes are even larger, and that's quite a bit of projects. If we're already concerned about even what we currently have and keeping up with the water supply in our summer times, what does that look like
So
for us adding all this industrial area? Because that's a concern if we're not even able to worry about watering and things in our summer as is.
So going back when we talked about this in feasibility study, one of the things that I made a suggestion was that the city also take a look of creating an industrial treatment plant. That was not allowed to be considered. It is probably your most cheapest option, rather than improving all of the pump stations, all of the pipes, and taking it under I-5 and getting it back to the current treatment plant.
In order to do that, would we still need the same pipes run?
You would have a level to that, but you would reduce the cost of offsite. You would not have the pump stations, and you would not put the extra capacity onto your existing facilities that we're not taking in consideration of when for the current residential that's coming on stage.
And since it would be new construction, it would be impact fees could go towards this.
Correct. As well as there are grants and projects at very low interest rates, as well as with a lot of this funding, there's additional funding out there that we could go after, like USDA, to do a new treatment plant. And that would be specific to the industrial, and we would reroute some of that.
So in doing that, and when you do an industrial treatment plant, does the wastewater and water all go in like one facility, or does it still need to be like 2 separate?
That's a better question for Gray and Osborne or Gibbs and Olson.
Perfect.
But it was not considered at all.
Okay, but something for us to think about
Yes.
right now. Okay.
One of the other things that was not considered,
Go ahead.
that was
He
not
wanted to contribute his
okay,
half now.
sorry. No. You can step up now, Travis. One of the things that wasn't considered also was stormwater. There's some discussions with obviously you may or may not be aware of, currently, the Diking District is doing a study on the drainage of the Woodland Bottoms. This incorporates some of the things that are happening within the city limits as well. Part of this would address where is this stormwater going to go and get treated. One of the things that I floated was a canal system, much like an irrigation system, that you could take that stormwater and repurpose it, recycle it, and get it out to the farmland, and they could use it rather than water that they're already having well out. So it would actually be a win-win for the agricultural community as well as the city, and be able to get that water rather than going into your treatment plants as getting it reused.
All right, one more question.
You can have more than one.
And you may or may not know, but existing industrial, is it something that could be rerouted, or that would be extremely costly to do?
I think some of it could be rerouted. A
'Cause
lot
I know
of it
like
needs
Walt's Meats has wanted to up their size and some of their things.
That's a good question.
Okay.
I know in some of the areas where we are, and so if you look at Heritage and I am back there, I know with getting water, getting the sewer, that any type of new development takes significant improvements all the way down. When those industrial developments were done for Sherman Way, nobody envisioned a Walmart or the high school being at that location. And so that took a lot of the industrial capacity. So again, it's trying to separate your industrial from your residential and some of the commercial.
Thank you.
Questions, comments?
You touched on it briefly. People want to live where they work, so we do all this industrial land. That brings on residential as well. People want to live here and work here. I know every time I go to somebody in Woodland to buy something, I get kind of nosy and start asking them where they live. And very rarely do they live in Woodland.
Right.
And every time I mention an apartment or something going in, they are very happy about it because they would like to have an opportunity to live here. I get the struggles on traffic, but the more jobs and more industrial land we bring here, it's going to bring residential as well. And I think people are going to have to accept it, that it's going to be part of the deal here.
Right, and that's why it's incredibly important that the port, the city, school district, the county, the Dyking District all work in coordination, because right now what we're seeing, and not to scare anybody, but the full build out of the Dyking District, how they have the Woodland Bottoms, the numbers actually scared me, and I love economic development. You know, when I start seeing 40% of the farmland being developed, I think about, okay, that's a lot of housing. There was a lot of residential that'd be added. That's a lot of permeable space that's being taken up, drainage, water, sewer, traffic, all the transportation needs. As somebody mentioned, we don't have a system here for transit. Though it's being looked at, it's in its infancy. There is a lot of things that are going to impact this community, whether we like it or not. I've said for years, we were at the cusp of a tsunami. Unfortunately, the tsunami has hit, and we weren't prepared. We were not prepared with our infrastructure, and now it's going to require everybody to pull in the same direction to get this done. These property owners have every right to develop their property, to sell their land, and they were made promises. That is a really hard thing when that was 30, 35 years ago. By reneging on that, you would take away potential income from them, and you have harmed them, and there's impacts to that. And as well as we would like to see more industrial, that the industrial, when you have new schools, let's face it, we know a new elementary is going to have to be built. I'm married to a school board member. I hear it all the time. The families are moving into this area, and so they bring their children, or they have children, and they're going to be more and more into our schools. By having the industrial, that takes on more of those costs rather than putting it onto the residents. They pay a higher tax rate because their assessed value is more.
At what point, you know, you touched on it briefly as far as more entrance and exits on the freeway. I sit back and I look at how much money we're putting in exit 21, or potentially going to put on, or potentially exit 22. And I feel like there's only so many cars that can load in on an intersection there, no matter how much money we put to try to navigate cars through there. I feel like we're spending a bunch of money when we should be putting it towards another entrance or exit.
You're absolutely right. If you go up to Centralia, they had the same problem. Except instead of industrial, they had the outlet mall. And they did the slip lanes, and they had to do that. They had the bridge there. They had to get a little bit creative about that. And now they have a lot less areas, as long as people aren't taking down their exits. But the traditional methods of doing exit 21 and 22 are going to have to be re-examined. If I could take a dream world, and Travis and I like playing Sims occasionally, is to have a slip lane that would go off to Pinkerton and take a exit that way going southbound. We need one. We need a better exit for La Center, the traffic between La Center and CC's Bridge. We're only kicking the can. Unfortunately, I do not see that exit 21, and this is my opinion, I do not see with what we're facing with Upriver and in La Center and the Amboy and these areas that are growing so quickly that this exit is going to be able to tolerate that even with all the improvements. You need to re-examine it and do it right, not kick the can.
I
And
feel like
that
we're
is the
gonna-
way that 22 has to do it.
I feel like we're going to put $30 million on exit 21, and it's not going to do much.
You know, unfortunately, the best option was Scott.
From my understanding, that got shot down by the state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So why is this, I mean, you know, one of the things that the state stated was doing the third bridge over the Lewis and taking it to exit 16.
In the interest of time, because
Sorry.
we do have another workshop, I'm gonna come back in 2 weeks when we have Kittleson's here to talk about exit 21.
Oh, they don't like hearing from me anymore.
I mean, I just think that, you know what I mean? Sorry.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate you.
Can you suspend the rules so we can ask a question, or is that?
We're in a workshop, so go ahead. If you have a real quick question, I just want to make sure we consider
The
time.
problem I see is a lot of dollars. My home is paid for, and I'm paying $700 a month to live in my home. I don't care about the cost of schools or what crap. At some point, you're gonna price me out of my own home. And the older I get, the harder that is to face. So how much is this gonna cost the citizens? You're talking about a lot of projects. I'm gonna be paying soon what I would have paid in a mortgage if I wouldn't have paid my house off. That is unfair.
Preach.
Yeah, well, I'm done.
I'm 53 years old and I want to retire. I right there with you, Ed. I mean, totally agree. And that's why I was asking the questions on the dollars, you know, and where this, you know, versus exit 21 versus spending the money here. So 100%. I'm
There are
not.
people that are renting apartments that are only paying $1,000 a month or more than I am for owning my home.
Right.
I can't afford water. I should leave, so.
You're fine. Don't leave. So, okay.
Travis, did you still have anything that you wanted to say?
Unfortunately, there's a lot of council that is not here, or that was not here at the time, but this was a major point of discussion back in 2018, 2019, when we talked about expanding our urban growth boundary and updating our comprehensive plan. And I've been banging my head against the wall for almost 7 years now, having this discussion, because we pointed out as part of that, and that is we need to know exactly where our future growth is going to occur, because if it's out Dike Access Road, where we place that future industrial plant, if we need one, will affect all of the downstream water and sewer infrastructure that we install. But if we're going to go south towards the Lewis River, towards Holland America, if that's where our growth is going to occur, totally different set of pipes, totally different pipe plant locations. We need an additional water source. These are all issues that we should have been discussing back in 2018, 2019. But essentially, we were running into the question of the chicken or the egg. Do we discuss our urban growth area so that we can plan for our public investments, or do we need to have a discussion about whether or not we need to grow and when stuff is going to occur so that the county is comfortable that they can justify expanding our urban growth boundary. And this study showed clearly that we're going to have failures at 21 and 22. And even if we fix 21, 22 goes into failure, now we're having this important discussion about where are we going to expand our urban growth boundary, only we're having it 10 years too late.
Again, this is why the city, the port, the county, the school district, we all need to work together and understand. And so that's why, again, we had this workshop here, not to scare people, but to start the dialogue, understand what is going on, so that we can see, hey, the port's going this way, the city's going this way, and it'd be like, wait, where's the, partnership here? So that is the reason we invited Jennifer here, and she asked if she could come here. So absolutely agree. We need to have these dialogue and conversation to create long-term solutions that are viable for our community. So, okay. Let's go to our next, any other comments really quickly? Okay, next agenda item on the workshop is our resident-owned communities. We have individuals from Woodland East Mobile Home Park here, and we have Victoria O'Bannon, who is going to present. So, Victoria?
Yes, Mayor. Are you able to add me as a presenter on Zoom?
We can't make you. Oh, she can? Yeah, you should be able to. Fire away.
How about now? Can you see my screen?
Yep. We're all good.
Perfect. Fantastic. Hello, and thank you for allowing us to present to you today. My name is Victoria O'Bannon, and I lead on the market development and acquisitions for the ROC Northwest program. ROC stands for Resident-Owned Communities. I'm going to talk today a little bit about the program model, the Resident-Owned Community Program model, and a proposal that we have before the City Council as a potential solution for some of the issues that that residents in Woodland are facing. So the resident-owned community model, this is a model that was developed over 30 years ago in New Hampshire. This is now a national program across the country with over 300 resident-owned communities. The model essentially takes residents living in manufactured housing communities, helps them form a limited equity housing cooperative, and then purchase a parcel of land where their homes are located. In this exchange, the resident-owned cooperative community becomes the landowner and is responsible for all of the care and the maintenance that the current landowner is responsible for. So this is just a business transaction with the end buyer in this situation being the residents themselves after they have formed a cooperative. So as I said, there's over 300 resident-owned communities across the country. There's actually 25 here in Washington State. Part of the way that we do this historically has been through sales and working with owners and investors in manufactured housing communities. Last year, we were able to pass a statewide piece of legislation that gave residents in manufactured housing communities the opportunity to compete for purchase. It is because of this piece of legislation that the residents of Woodland East were notified that their community was going to be sold, that the current landowners intended to sell. The residents of Woodland East reached out to us at ROC Northwest for guidance and support on how to proceed as a resident-owned community. Unfortunately, that is unlikely that they are going to be able to meet the seller's purchase price expectations and become a resident-owned community, which has led us to this conversation where we are today. Traditionally, though, when we look at the feasibility of becoming a resident-owned community, we look to determine, can the residents afford the purchase price? And what I mean by that is that the residents in the community still pay a lot rent. That lot rent is three numbers combined together and divided by the number of lots in the park. Those three numbers are the monthly mortgage payment. The cooperative takes on a loan to secure the asset, to secure the parcel of land. So that monthly mortgage payment plus the monthly operating expenses. And the third number is 10% for emergencies and cash flow purposes. So it's those three numbers divided by the number of lots in the park. It is feasible for resident acquisition if that number is within 40% of what the residents are currently paying. Outside of that, it is unfeasible for resident acquisition because the risk to the lender is too great. And the financial stability of the cooperative is in jeopardy. Assuming that it is feasible for resident acquisition and that a deal is reached with the seller, we organize the residents. We organize them to form a cooperative. We help them incorporate. We help them negotiate the purchase and sale agreement and execute all of the physical site inspections. Because of this national program and the fact that there are 25 resident-owned communities in Washington state, we have existing relationships with funders that are ready and prepared to fund the loan to the cooperative. We secure the funding at over 100% of the purchase price. We do this for three reasons. The first reason is that it costs something to buy anything. So the cost of those inspections, the cost of the attorney fee, and the closing fee are all rolled into the closing and the permanent acquisition. The second reason is that there is no resident equity. This is a limited equity partnership, meaning that the residents put in a very limited amount of their own personal equity into the closing. That number is typically between $100 and $200. So that is not sufficient funding or financing to contribute significantly to the purchase price when we're dealing with multi-million-dollar purchases. And the third reason why we secure a loan of over 100% of the purchase price is that we fund reserve accounts at closing. Those reserve accounts include months worth of mortgage payments, months worth of operating expenses, and we initiate the capital improvement budget at closing as well. In the physical site inspection, we identify a 10-year capital improvement plan that is then funded with that permanent loan. The initial year is funded with that permanent loan. And then upon closing, the resident entity cooperative purchases the park, they accept the terms of their financing, and then they proceed. We provide technical assistance and guidance for a minimum of 10 years, which means our job is to support that cooperative as they launch their new business and own and operate their manufactured housing community. One of the things that we wanted to talk to you guys today about is the potential of a greenfield development. The concept and the management of a manufactured housing community, the resident ownership of the manufactured housing community would remain the same. However, is there an opportunity to start from a blank parcel of land and build out a manufactured housing community from the ground up with the intention of it being resident owned? This is a very, very brief snapshot of the steps in order to do some greenfield development of any manufactured housing community. Each one of these pieces has very detailed and time-consuming aspects, part of it. But we're at step one right now. The one thing that we know in manufactured housing communities is that they get a bad rap. And they get a bad rap for some pretty legitimate reasons. No one here on this phone call or in this room would deny that there are manufactured housing communities that are an eyesore and less desirable for cities, city services, for all the reasons. But manufactured housing communities today and the homes rolling off the factory today are on par with the site-built homes that we're seeing built across Washington day in and day out. These are really what we're looking to develop. It's not the manufactured housing communities of the 60s and the 70s. we're looking to develop manufactured housing communities that look and feel and resemble, and for all purposes are a subdivision of homes that happen to be built in a factory versus a site-built home. So again, we're at step one, wanting to understand the appetite of Woodland, and if Woodland is interested in doing a manufactured housing community development. If we can achieve that interest, then we'll move on to step two, where we look at the zoning and the code review and identify potential parcels of land. We may never make it to step 7. There are so many things that could put us and be roadblocks in the way between step 7 or 1 and 7. But right now we need to ensure that the city of Woodland is interested in the development of a manufactured housing community. And this is a group of residents from a community that purchased their park in Central Washington. These residents purchased their park actually almost 2 years ago. They are at a place where the cooperative is at a place financially secure where they actually just installed a security gate. And so now they actually live in a gated community in Royal City, Washington. And they're a fantastic resident-owned cooperative that we're really proud to display and talk about. So I'm going to stop talking there. I do have a couple people on the phone or on the line with us as well. We have a potential to partner with several developers that have really came out and said that they're interested in helping me be part of this solution. So I'm going to ask Yoel and Matt to kind of talk a little bit about their work as in manufactured housing and in development.
If it's okay, we'll step back for 1 second, and I want to add some clarity on why we're here. The city has a mobile home park, manufactured housing community, with approximately 130 spaces filled with seniors right now over on the northeast side, and these residents are being price gouged, and they're being priced out of their homes by a private property owner. You've read about it in numerous articles in the Columbian, and you've got 130 families screaming and begging for help. You've got a private property owner that is trying to, again, raise their rents to ultimately make them homeless. Number 2, to try to extract every bit of value to sell that park for more than it's probable, much more than it's worth. We came to the table here because these 130 residents are looking for any solution that would allow them to pay a fair rent. Tying in with what Victoria was talking about, why we're here, and Yoel will fill you in a little bit more in regards to our bona fides, but as builders, we're talking about coming in and doing a fee building project for the residents to own their community. We're talking about actually moving those 130 families from that park that's overcharging them, moving them into a brand new park with new facilities, new infrastructure that they can continue to call home for the rest of their lives and with rent that they can afford. This is a private enterprise, but it is a private-public partnership. Number 1, Yoel and I oversee approximately 200 communities across the United States. We have a history of doing some of these projects, not many, but if a city's not interested, as I like to say, we're not interested in pushing rope. If the city is interested, we are here to provide their residents, your residents, a solution. Number 2, it's a private-public partnership because it comes down to what your residents can afford. We need to identify land, and we need to identify a cost structure for impact fees, connection fees that makes sense. So if the city is on board and wants to find a solution for this community, we are here, we are ready, we have the financial wherewithal, we have the background, we are probably 2 of the best placed partners in the nation for this type of project, and we're ready and willing to engage and make this a reality. Yoel?
Yeah, thank you, Matt. That's helpful. I'll give a little more background. As Matt said, he and I are both manufactured housing community operators and builders. In some senses, Matt and I are competitors. We're also partners. We've worked on some properties together. In-house in my business, we're 3-pillar communities. We operate 75 communities coast to coast. We have a development arm. We have a construction arm. We are currently developing 3 communities. Our first is in Bozeman, Montana. We've got homes on the ground, infrastructure in place. We work with the municipality to provide an attainable housing solution in a market that is quite unaffordable. I think a lot of the same market dynamics are in Woodland. As Matt pointed out, the real unique situation here is a landlord that is kind of giving us a bad name. Matt and I pride ourselves in earning the right to raise rents and bring rents to market. This situation is untenable, and the rents are currently unreasonable and going to be more unreasonable. The idea that we have here would actually double the amount of attainable housing that's available in Woodland. Our expectation would be that we would move most, if not all, of the residents to this new community. Those who wouldn't want to leave could stay. And in emptying out the other community, creating the opportunity to bring in new homes and likely change the ownership there, potentially create a second resident-owned community, but create an opportunity to bring in more housing that is attainable and I think serves the Woodland community well.
So we want to answer questions that you guys have about this model, about what we're talking about. Is this making sense?
So I met with them.
We're here to answer.
Sorry, Victoria. So I met with these individuals and I said, hey, it needs to be a workshop. Again, no action here, one way or the other, but I want people to start thinking. Meg has come several times to council. We've read articles in the paper and things about what's going on. So just to get your heads around things. So it needs around 15 acres of land inside the city limits, about the only land, and I believe Matt is going to meet with Travis, but about the only acreage that I know of is up on Scott Hill as available. So again, it comes down to, is there opportunity to annex in the county into the city, different things there. So when it goes back to, this slide for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the city buy-in, zoning code and review, there's quite a bit here to be done. But again, I want the conversation to be had here when we have community members and citizens coming forward.
Todd, you hit the nail on the head, and I thank you for bringing that up. You are correct. It's 15 acres. It can be either surplus city land. It can be land that we can rezone. It can be whatever the city wants it to be, knowing that if you took highway commercial, that would have a incredibly high cost with it. And we want to be cognizant that the cheaper we get this done, the cheaper these senior citizens' rent is going to be. So our eye on the prize is figuring out how to do this in the most cost-effective manner, in a way that makes the city proud, provides housing, ongoing housing for seniors, and can actually be a model eventually for the rest of the state.
So the land up on Scott Hill, not Scott Hill Park land, or part of Scott Hill Park land?
Travis.
It is Scott Hill Park that is within the city, and they have a phased development plan in for submittal. The question is whether or not the city would be interested in terminating the agreement with the Rotary on that property, whether it's in its entirety or future phases. There's also the discussion about expanding the urban growth boundary and whether or not the county will allow us to expand the urban growth boundary, and then we would have to have that as part of the discussion.
So again, I'm an open book here, so when I met and Scott Hill Park came up, my first reaction is it's prime real estate. I mean, it has a view of the valley and those pieces. We've committed with, the Rotary to do those things. So again, as they're looking for solutions, they're looking at a map and saying, okay, where's our acreage at? So that's why I said Scott Hill Park is, what we have available.
Yeah.
So I don't want someone to leave here thinking, oh, Todd just, no, that was my first reaction. Got to have a conversation with y'all.
Excellent.
So.
Todd, I will also say, I mean, I'm from California. I apologize for that in advance. But, I pull up your zoning map, and I said this to you on the call. I see all the rail spurs on the west side. I see an incredible amount of industrial. I don't know the history or the plans, but when I look at a zoning map, I find many parcels that could work. But really, again, we're not going to push rope. We need for somebody to guide us and say, here's roughly where we'd like it. And for example, if we did it in the light industrial, since most all of that is farmland, we're going to have a much cheaper cost per acre, which will directly pass on to the senior citizens. This subdivision is going to be built at a cost plus. The plus is fixed. The costs are where we have the most room to work. We can go to the southwest of town. We can go to the northwest of town. If the county, I don't know the politics in Washington, but if the county is needing to hit its affordable housing goals, that sometimes helps for annexation. We're up for any area that if the city council just sort of drew on a map and say, here's where we think it makes sense, we're going to go out then and track down that land and take the next steps. So really, we need some guidance. And that 15 acres that we talked about, I pulled up the map to see what the city owned, and that was one of two parcels. And the easiest thing to make it work is either land that we can do a quick rezone on that the city's on board with, or land the city owns that's surplus that wants to sell it off. And that land could be, it's not giving away. We're not looking for any handouts. We're looking to pick up good land that works for the seniors. And where we're looking for the partnership also from the city is to talk about, I haven't seen your development fee schedule, but certain development fee standards are tiered for affordable housing when area median income is a fraction of it. And we would like to have that discussion as well. Because again, the more we can drive down the costs, 100% of those savings directly benefit your residents.
Any other comments, questions, discussion here? Any discussion from Monty?
I as well echo that I don't think Scott Hill Park is feasible. I feel like if we sold that land, the money that we get from that land would go towards Scott Hill Park. So I think we would be looking for a premium to try to finish Scott Hill Park sooner rather than later, having a project take 20 years. So I think if we did sell that land off and went that route, I would like to see the money from the sale of that land finish Scott Hill Park. So I think our only option, if it is feasible, is to try to move outside of city limits and then annex in if that's possible. But I think that's also a long shot too.
I know that you guys have had your workshop on HB 1110 and housing for all. This is definitely part of that. And I don't know where you guys are. I don't know where the county is in identifying how many units each city is responsible for. But kind of as Matt mentioned, that is something to consider. Some of the bill, and I say that and say some of the pieces of legislation that are still making their way through Olympia right now, and we'll know in a couple weeks where they land, could be part of this. And there could be incentives to look in your urban growth area as part of this affordable housing development.
I would just say that perfection is the enemy of good. And there are a lot of ways to do this good. You've got tons of land inside your city limits, and you've got ways to rezone. Again, I don't know the north from the south from the middle, but I see large swaths of farmland that could easily house your residents. And I don't know how it is up there in comparison to California, but we've got the state breathing down our necks to add affordable housing. And everything I read, you folks have a housing crisis too. So if we get creative on any type of rezone, anything on the west side, we could make it work if the council had some informal talks and again said, we think we could live with something on the upper west or the southern west. Then if we get that sort of guidance, the next step would be tying up some land and bringing it back to you to do the rezone. But again, you've got to want it. If there's not that desire, it doesn't fit within the general plan, I get that too, 100%.
I felt like if we had a map, it would help.
Hold on 1 second. So,
I felt like if we had a map, it would help to see what we're kind of looking at too.
I think a lot of that stuff you're looking on the west side is in the county. It's not in the city. So those do look like they're good places. But it's in the county.
So coming out of the workshop, again, this is where we can,
right,
kind of direct staff and say, hey, can we do this or what this? Now you're seeing why I'm saying, hey, let's have a dialogue, conversation, no action here. I think, we at least owe it to have Travis work with Matt, identify what is there, and come back with a map, come back with a dialogue and conversation for us to have more information, education on it. Go ahead, JJ.
We'd do a retreat, so maybe we can talk something about that during the retreat.
Okay, perfect.
That comment was a little hard to hear. Can you repeat that comment, Mayor?
So I've had a discussion about having a retreat. It's an all-day meeting with council. The citizen, the community is welcome to come to attend as well. And so having this as one of our topics of discussion there is what he was referring to.
Right.
Just want to make sure I'm paraphrasing correctly.
Yeah, you are.
What I think, and Todd, you hit the nail on the head. Travis is back. We'll sit down. Travis knows the history. He has a pulse on what might be doable, and we'll identify 3 or 4 areas, and we'll bring them back to you and get some initial feedback. The other thing to keep in mind, these residents market rents in your city are probably $900 to $1,000. These people are taking approximately a $200 rent increase in the next month or two to $1,250. They are getting stretched beyond their means. So if the city is serious about affordable housing and solving these problems, we don't want to drag this out for 3 or 6 months. We want to figure out a way to break down walls, move quickly, and get it done for them.
Douglas, I think you had a comment.
You bet. If the council has, I can give them a great deal more background. Full disclosure, I happen to live in Woodland East, and Meg Freimark is my wife. We've been on many HOAs together and lived in the previous manufactured home communities before. So I can answer just about any question you have, technically or otherwise, on it. And these good folks, these developers, they have a good reputation. They'd be willing to work with us. And I'd sure like to see Travis in particular. You spend some time on them. And if we want to do the retreat anytime soon, I'll volunteer to address any of your concerns now, council-wise.
Okay. Any other? Go ahead, Monty. Sorry.
I know during our meeting that Mayor invited me into, discussion was kind of cost-wise and what this would cost for the community, and I think it was like roughly $20 million.
Yeah. So total cost was around $20 million, 130 homes. When you break it down, $50,000 to move the homes, and then you have the infrastructure to go there. So it's about $150,000 per homeowner.
I think we should just clarify, though, that the plan we're laying out here would have no cost to the city. And if we were to purchase city land, would generate revenue for the city from the proceeds of that land. And if we're not, we find another parcel of land, we'd buy that land. This is not a project that would cost the city or the taxpayers any money. This would result in the residents of Woodland having ownership in a cooperative community in which they live, create more housing units at no cost with no handouts.
Yeah. So one thing about that, again, there's no cost. People are concerned about, you know, more residents and things like that. So one of the questions that I asked was, so you move the 130 homes out, you have that parcel of land sitting at the end of Gun Club. And so the response back was that that landowner would probably put new or additional mobile homes there. So ultimately, you were having roughly 100 more homes in your community. Right, wrong, or indifferent? Just want to make sure we're part of the conversation. Okay.
Yeah. That's really when we get to step 3 and step 4. That's traffic impact studies. That's looking at the feasibility of placement of 100 units of housing on that specific parcel, what it does to infrastructure, all of that. And so like that's all rolled into the development planning.
100% agree. I just want to make sure that it wasn't like, oh, well, Todd heard something in this meeting and isn't sharing. So trying to cover it all off. Yep. Any other questions or comments on this? I think Travis.
I
Oh, go ahead,
was
Jimmy.
going to ask one. What percentage of the people that live there right now would actually move?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
If you're asking me, we haven't taken a survey
Right.
completely, but I know everybody
Oh, I know.
cannot afford the $1,250 and are willing to sell, but they don't know where they're going.
Right. Okay.
And they'll get only, if they're lucky, 50%
Of what?
the
Yeah.
sales price of what they would have gotten
Yeah.
2, 3, 4 years ago. Because nobody wants to come in there and rent and pay that fee. We
Yeah.
have people that we're getting food for,
Hmm.
because it's
I-
either they eat or they pay their rent.
I understand because I know a couple people that live there, and one used to work for the chamber, and I couldn't believe what she was paying. So.
I also want to bring up the fact that if there are people who do not want to come over for one reason or another, that would be a space still available to put a house on to continue to grow that new community.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
That we can offer to any of the other parks who are being sold, and these people feel that they have nowhere to go. We would be able to open up the avenue of giving them somewhere, another option for them to go with affordable housing.
So right now, this
And
is
one
just-
other thing I will point out. We're growing as a nation. We're growing in our communities. Sometimes people don't like growth, but it is a necessary evil. And more importantly, you've got your blue collar and your lower income folks across your different, you've got your different people in any community. And if you don't support all aspects of your community, including those that are less fortunate, those are the people that when they're not seniors, they're the ones flipping your burgers. They're the ones, well, not pumping your gas anymore, but they're the ones that do these important things that you need. And you need this housing, all sorts of housing for your community, because it's not all $500,000, $700,000 homes. And what's so cool about resident ownership, the last thing I want to say that Victoria didn't get enough excited about that is just so cool. You're taking lower income folks that have never owned anything of their own, and they're just renters, and you're making them owners. And it's a really cool thing.
And no, I completely agree, Matt. And why I'm still doing this job. I will say to Matt's point, this, there's some pieces of legislation that are still in Olympia, as I kind of mentioned before. There's a workforce accelerator program. manufactured housing communities, well, they definitely serve a population of 55 plus and older adults. That is definitely a niche market for manufactured housing communities. They're predominantly occupied by residents between 60 to 120% AMI, and that is your workforce. You guys have had conversations during this this city council meeting about workforce housing, about people not being able to reside in Woodland, and these are the people who can't reside in Woodland. This gives them an opportunity to reside in Woodland, to stay where they work, and to create a healthy economy. When you don't do that, you have communities like Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, that currently has no workforce housing, and this tourist city is struggling to keep doors open on restaurants and in their resorts. And it's because they did not preserve their workforce housing, and they're in a problem. So yeah, I completely agree, Matt.
Do I have time? Yeah. Okay. 2 questions. One, is this just for your community?
Right now, we partnered with Rock because we wanted to purchase our community, and this is something that has developed outside of that idea because our
They're not willing to work
offer
with you.
was
Okay.
not taken. And as I said before, if not everyone comes over, there will be available spaces which will be open to anybody who qualifies in a 55-plus community.
So that was
to
my
come
next
in.
question. So if it's another community, like, I don't know if the one by Horseshoe, is that 55?
I don't know.
So if they are being outpriced as well, but they're not 55 and up, they would not be allowed in your community, is what you're telling me.
Well, within a 55-plus community, there's a percentage of people that don't have to be 55 because they have to make, I think, a 20% or 10% to enable to be affordable housing for that age group. So, for an example, our park may have a few people who have purchased there that aren't quite 55, but still could come into the category because it's allowed within the title 55-plus community.
So, can I just jump in here for one point? One, their housing law is going to play a part in this. So, yes, we could have preferential treatment, and the cooperative is developed by residents of Woodland. But if somebody that wasn't in Woodland right now, Woodland East right now, wanted to move into the community and there was an open spot, they would have to consider that application. So just throwing that out there, like, we can't just like,
Even if it was a family with 2 kids?
so then you're talking about 55 plus certification. That is a completely different ball of wax. And truly, I think that is a ball of wax that we wouldn't really start talking about until we're at step 4.
Okay.
It's more complicated than just some of the stuff that Marge has just talked about.
Okay.
Well, but
I was just curious. Thank you.
I'm gonna uncomplicate it for just 1 second. It can be whatever the city wants it to be. It started with these 130 residents. But if the city says, you're right, we don't have enough senior housing, hey, can you build that to 150, 160? Hey, can you put a 50-space all-age park next to it and have 2 parks right next to each other? Absolutely. So, again, the only thing that we want from the city is to help us eventually cut the red tape and to make it welcoming, so we're not pushing rope. We don't want handouts. We'd like good, a good fee structure for the impact fees, but we're here just to provide more housing, so we can do that however you want. It could be 150 units, 250 units, 2 parks right next door to each other. you as our partner at this table get to drive this train and tell us what you as a community would like to see while we're helping the Woodland East residents, which was the primary starter of this. But we'd love to build some bigger parks.
Excellent. Okay. With that, it is, Travis has his little working with Matt on this. I'll get this on our agenda for our retreat. And with that, it is 9:59, and we will go back into our regular meeting.
Motion to end meeting.
Second.
At 9:59,
Thank you very much.
the meeting is ended.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Yeah.
We thought.